Hello and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. There's all kinds of family. We chose this one. This is episode 119, Fast and Furious Crossroads. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
And I'm Joe, too.
We got a big episode today, and so we're changing up our
huge.
intro. So people who are normal listeners to the show, this is a different intro, but the interview that we have, because with us today to talk about this, we have the game director, Andy Tudor. It's a long interview, it's a great interview,
long.
And we both agree, we just want to get right to the interview.
Yeah, normally we do, a full intro thing, but we were like, you know what, no, we don't even want to, put this off, so we should try to get into it as quick as possible.
So we're not going to do our extracurricular activities. That will be on our next episode, which will be Blue Crush, so keep an eye out for that, as we do our pit stops of Michelle Rodriguez movies and movies about memory loss. I do want to plug our Patreon page for a specific reason, so TooFastTooForever.com. First of all, shout out to Cassie Wilson, Jake Freer, Ben Milliman, Nick Burris, Alex Ellenin, Justin Kleinman, Brian Rodriguez of High School Slumber Party. Haley Gerbies, Wes Hampton, Christian Larson, and Jerry Robinson for supporting us at the $5 level or above. Thank you all so very much.
Yes, thank you.
The reason I want to shout that out, in addition to our email address, family@cageclub.me, is because, Joe, we have a new patron. We have a new $5 patron. Past guest of the show, Dan the Duke Hayden. Shout out, Duke.
Oh, welcome, Dan. Thanks for joining, bud.
So he sent in a couple emails, too, which we will read on our next episode when we get back to our full normal thing. Yeah, I wanted to give him a special shout out. I just thanked him on Facebook, and because, we're friends. He's been a past guest. He was on our Tokyo Drift episode a couple laps ago. And he's like, yeah, man, I just started listening. I thought I could contribute. And I was like, that's awesome. That's super cool.
We appreciate it, bud. Thanks, man.
So, yeah, so we got some stickers in the mail coming out to you. So our Patreon page, we have swag and merchandise like stickers, early access to episodes, bonus episodes, Fast and Furious Minute document, because another thing we're skipping today is we're breaking down the movies minute by minute, one at a time. So we're working toward the end of the Fast and the Furious. So we're doing that. We're also working through our Michelle Rodriguez on Lost as Ana Lucia Cortez. So we're working through that too. We're going to skip that too. But all sorts of fun stuff at TooFastTooForever.com. So shout that out. Check that out. And also, as always, if you have any thoughts or rankings or whatever,
Thoughts about this interview?
Yes, please. Family@cageclub.me. Send us a note. We also, I don't want to take anything away from this interview, but we've got another very cool, very wildly different interview coming up in the near future, too. So
it's kind of a surprise, yeah.
Kind of a surprise, but it's going to be very fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. But, Joe, do you have any other thoughts before we just drop right into this interview with Andy?
This is a big one, guys, so buckle your seatbelts, get ready for it, because
we're about to hit the NOS.
Yeah, I can't wait till you guys hear it.
This is a very exciting day. We have with us today the game director of the Fast and Furious Crossroads. We have Andy Tudor. Hello, Andy.
Hello there. How are you?
Welcome,
we are
friend.
Doing wonderful. We are thrilled that you could join us. We figure that you're the man of the hour right now because you have created the most recent and relevant Fast and Furious canon. So we have lots of questions. I was saying to you before we started recording that Joe and I just finished the game yesterday.
Cool.
So we have lots of thoughts, lots of questions, and we can't wait to dig into it.
Awesome. Can't wait to answer all of your questions and probably reveal a bunch of Easter eggs that you might have missed.
I hope.
Wonderful. Before we get there, though, we have what's seemingly 45 minutes of either or questions and stuff like that. Before we get there, though, I do want to sort of get a history of your relationship with the Fast and the Furious. So you are the game director of Fast and Furious Crossroads, but what is your history with the movies themselves? Have you been watching them forever? Did you come to them recently? I asked you to rank them. If you could also offer your rankings too, but what's your history with these movies?
I can clearly remember seeing that very first movie. I was one of those people who went to that first movie when it first came out. Had an amazing experience going, wow, this is absolutely awesome, and then leaving the theatre and being one of those people who then jumped in their car, revved the engine, and then started, screaming out of the car park, along with pretty much every other boy racer in England at the time, because it was at a time when that bit of car culture was just exploding at the time. You know, we had Need for Speed Underground at the time in video game format, and the movies were there doing things that hadn't really seen before with cars. So yeah, I very clearly remember that very first movie, and they've been with me ever since. You know, I'm a huge fan of the movies, and that's why, you know, Universal approached us to make this game. Lived through every single one. I do have my rankings as they've exploded and gone international and got even more insane, changed from street racing to heist movies, and now to these kind of international save the world vehicular strike team movies. My love for them has grown along with that. You know, we all respect the past of where they came from, but you know, the movies are bigger now than they've ever been.
So here's what I'm a little jealous of, and Joe and I only found this out in the last year, is that the way that the movies have been named over in the UK are different than they are here. And like, they're just the Fast and Furious, I think 1 through 8 or whatever. And then here they've got all sorts of goofy, weird, crazy names. And so like, we didn't realize that until
our
we have
friend
a friend
from
who
England
lives over in the UK sent us a like a pamphlet, like a prep thing for either Fate of the Furious or Hobbs Shaw or whatever, and it was a rundown of the first 8, and they were like, oh yeah, you know, in the Fast and the Furious 8, we're like, well, no, it's called the Fate of the Furious. Or like, in the Fast and Furious 4, it's like, well, no, that's just called Fast and Furious. Like, it blew our minds for a second, so
it's pretty complicated.
Rankings. I'm interested to hear your rankings and whether you're going to do them in the American style or the British style.
I'm going to go off what is officially canon as far as I'm aware. So
okay.
So as far as I'm aware, my top one is going to be Furious 7.
Oh, okay.
And
very cool.
The reason for that is obviously because of Paul. You know, I've never been to a movie theater experience full of just dudes and bros, and knowing going in that this was Paul's last movie, and sitting there on those end credits, on that final scene, just welling up, you know, thinking about it just now, you know, and just having that experience and thinking, these are just silly car movies. And, you know, it's really got to us all, and it was just a communal experience there, just a communal cultural thing that was happening. Like I said about the first movie, this was almost the bookend of that on in the 7th movie, so that holds a really special, you know, place in my heart. It's also the first movie where the opening sequence with Jason Statham visiting his brother in the hospital, and then you see, and then revealing all the debris and devastation that he's caused out of that. You just thought, all right, we're in for something good here with this movie, right? This guy's got a vendetta. He's potentially the greatest villain that they'd had up until that point, because it had been teased. You know, I'll be seeing you soon, Toretto. In like in the previous bookend, you knew what you were going into in this movie. You got a great villain. It's Paul's last movie, and it just felt like Avengers Endgame in that respect. Just felt huge.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's got great sequences, great jokes and stuff like that with the crew as well. And then, so right behind that is Fast 5, and it's almost for the same reason. It brings in The Rock. It's got a great feeling of a man or a team on the run who are now in hiding. It's the first movie where we start doing crazy heists with the train, and then obviously the Rio sequence right at the end with the vault. It just felt like these movies had grown out of what they had previously been, which is kind of cops and robbers. And now we're into something larger now. Now we were into a larger world and physically larger characters and stuff as well. It just felt like that was the thing that really kick-started the franchise. Not rebooted it, but kind of just kick-started it into, they found their feet, they found their vision, and then off we go to the races therefore. So, yeah, I think Furious 7 just beats it in terms of the number and the quality of the set pieces that there were in there, but Fast 5 is great in terms of the story and the other supporting characters, you know, with Han and Giselle and stuff. So Furious 6 is behind that, and again, it's kind of for similar reasons. It's the Han and Giselle part of the story that I really like there. And it's got Letty, you know, on the London Underground, you know, fighting Gina Carano, and you know, and she's a great character as well. It's got the tank sequence, and then the plane sequence, and then Giselle dies, and you're just like, oh my god, there's so much in here. Luke Shaw and the flip car, so much in there. I mean, you could maybe interchange Furious 7 and Furious 6 in order, but I think the other two really do something exemplary and above their station. Furious 6 is just a really good, solid movie. Then we get into...
This is where it gets tough.
Yeah, this is when it gets really, really tough. In order, I've got Fate, Too Fast, and Hobbs and Shaw.
Okay.
However, Fast 4... the Fast and Furious could be one of those. They're really interchangeable at this point. Fate of the Furious, for me, it was our main jumping off point for the game. So I think I've seen that movie maybe 30 times now.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Know it inside and out. No cipher, intrinsically well.
Okay, I want to get into that because she is a fascinating, like, I think our collective, my specific feelings about her have evolved wildly.
Yeah, really interesting character. Maybe not really. I don't know what really want to say. I don't know what I'm allowed to say here. But maybe not the person who is running things. Maybe there's somebody else pulling her strings, as it were. I don't know. But I mean, that's my feelings on Cypher. That she has a plan, but it's almost like she herself is working for someone as well. And therefore, I feel like we dropped a tiny little bit of that in the game with our bad guy. But once you've watched Fate of the Furious and you kind of understand her and her crew and how has she got all this cool kit and technology and stuff, it has a lot of meaning. Therefore, it's got some cool sequences. You know, some people may or may not agree whether Dom would have gone rogue. You know, right? That was obviously something you had to suspend your disbelief in the movie, and then you kind of go, okay, well, of course, that's why. You know, but you know, for some people, it is a stretch too far. But it has a lot of meaning for me personally and for the team, as it was our main jumping off point. You know, we took the team to go and see it when it was released, although we already knew the plot and everything by then at that point. So yeah, it was really cool. Similarly, Too Fast, Too Furious has a lot of symbology in the company as well, because for us, we wanted to bring in some new characters who were related to the franchise, but weren't just like people from LA who like lived down the road from Dom and Letty.
Right,
you know, they were, because that would be a bit unbelievable. We could have brought back Jesse or somebody, right? But we wanted to bring in new characters. We looked for another hook, and where is that hook? And we felt like there's another family of crew over in Miami with Tej, with Suki and all that, and that's where we decided to pull from to introduce the new characters of Vienna and Cam. So again, just like Fate, Too Fast holds a lot for us as well. You know, Roman is at his funniest. It's a great buddy cop movie. It's still kind of finding its feet in terms of what a Fast and Furious movie is, but it's got the Carter Verone race to get the cigar. It's got the boat at the end. It's got the scramble. It's got good bits in it, and therefore it's got, you know, neon-soaked street racing and jumping the bridge and stuff. So, you know, it feels like it's maybe undervalued in terms of maybe other people's rankings potentially, but for us it was quite a big influence.
And we'll get into this later, but we were, the current lap that we're on, we, like, every time we reset, we call it a new lap, and the lap that we're on right now, we're watching the movies with two guys who have never seen them before, and so we're in the shoes of someone, like, you know, this is our 7th time through, but this is their first time, and we're saying to them, like, Too Fast and Tokyo Drift, like, they matter, like, there's important characters, there's developments or whatever, but, like, 4 kind of, in a way, makes it so you don't really need to see 2 and 3, and then, like, while we're talking to them about these, we're playing the game and we're like, wait a minute, like the game makes 2 more relevant than ever.
Yeah.
Like there's so many connections for one that's kind of like a forgotten movie in a way. Like not really, but kind of a forgotten movie. Like if there's like one that you could maybe skip, it might be 2. But then you're like, no, there's like important stuff here. There's another history, and we were like, oh my god, like this is this the specific angle is like we did not expect that at all.
So I mean, our approach was let Rogue One, the Star Wars movie, does it perfectly, right? Rogue One is a great story with brand new characters, and it only enhances A New Hope even more. It doesn't take anything away; it just enhances it even more. Like, oh, that's why the Death Star blows up so easily. That's how they got the plans and all that kind of stuff. It just enhances that episode 4 even more, and that was exactly the same feeling we wanted with the game, to make other movies feel more important. So yeah, Too Fast, Too Furious is definitely the movie that was chosen to do that with.
And that's a crazy comparison, because literally our last episode,
I know.
we were talking about how, like, because we were comparing it to Marvel, we were talking about how, like, Fast 5 is kind of like the Avengers, and, like, it's fine, like, the first 4, in a way, build toward that movie, and then that's kind of the Avengers. But then we were also comparing them to Star Wars. We're trying to figure out if, like, our guests were saying that 2 and 3 are kind of like the prequels, and we're like, they're kind of more like Solo and Rogue One. Like, they're kind of a... So the fact that you just said that without any kind of, like...
God,
I promise you, I did not listen to the last episode. So that was completely off my own back. Yeah, after that, it's obviously Fast 4, Fast 1, Tokyo Drift. And that's unfair to say that, to just kind of dismiss them so trivially like that. Fast 4 is a really important movie. It starts, and Dom and Brian are still at each other's throats, not physically, but they are not the brotherhood that we know them to be nowadays. People forget that. They do not become brothers until the end of the movie, really. They still start off with, hey, what are you doing here? And hey, what are you doing here? And they look at each other, right? And they kind of, kind of a mutual respect, like, okay, you let me go that one time. But that brotherhood, that family, that word family, doesn't exist yet. So Fast 4 is the one that finally gives us that. If it was on TV right now, would I watch that, or would I watch one of the movies above it? Ooh, that's difficult then. Right. I would watch it now in retrospect, because it's one of the movies that we haven't watched as much as the others. Yeah, to put it in that place, feels slightly disrespectful, and it doesn't mean to be. It's just that the more recent movies, they're in that stride that was hit after Fast 5.
A quote-unquote bad Fast and Furious movie is still more enjoyable than, like, most other movies.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Fast 1, excellent. The one that kicked it all off. If you went and watched it back nowadays, you might get some little, some little extra bit of nugget of information, or glean something else out of it, squeeze that last drop of awesome out of it, but all the characters are quite different to how you know them nowadays. Some things like the customization on the cars and things like that has dated since that day and stuff. So it's hard to kind of say, yes, Fast 1 should be up there in terms of it kicked the whole thing off, but looking at it now in retrospect, it does fall down a little later in the list. Obviously Tokyo Drift being in last place again doesn't mean that it's bad.
Definitely not.
It's more personal preference.
Yep.
Sean is a interesting character, and we even thought about having him in Crossroads as well.
Ooh.
When we were looking at which characters do we want to bring back, what story do we want to tell, which cameos do we potentially want to have in there. Sean and Neela were characters that we were definitely looking at in terms of, could we tell more things with them, knowing what's coming up in Fast 9. It was difficult to say. There were lots of conversations around, what is Sean doing right now? Like, in the world, in the fiction, what is Sean doing after he spoke to Dom about Han and had that whole conversation in Tokyo and by the car park? Is he still in Tokyo? Has he gone somewhere else? For people who've watched the Fast 9 trailer, he's gone somewhere else. and therefore did it make sense for him to suddenly turn up in Barcelona or wherever else? It was like, I think he's busy. I think he's doing. I think he's having other adventures, and it didn't make sense to bring him in. But in terms of the movie, it introduces us to Han, and Han's he's one of my
Personal
favorite character, right?
Yep.
So
we agree.
Love his character. Obviously, the fans have loved his character, which is why. Can we spoil trailers? I guess we can.
We
which is why we see him returning, right? Which is again something we knew in advance whilst we were making this game. So Tokyo Drift is a difficult watch compared to the others, just because it's a different character you have to now get invested in. The whole Tokyo school stuff, I don't know, is not my personal preference.
Okay.
But then obviously the Canyon Run stuff is fantastic. And then when it leads into Dom turning up, and then the retrospectively tying Dom in with what happens to Han and Deckard Shaw, that's just a masterful stroke of genius. So therefore it does get raised up slightly by making it more important in the series. Again, we wondered whether we should set the game in Tokyo to give that movie more poignancy. If we're talking about which movie we want to raise up or which one we want to most connect to, it was Miami or potentially Tokyo, and in the end we went with Miami for the Hispanic vibe, which is very, very popular, has a huge fan base within the franchise and stuff.
Yeah.
And again, it just made more sense to do something like Barcelona, which has quite a varied geography with the beach and the city and the hills, compared to Tokyo, which has the highway, the big freeway over there, and the canyons. But Need for Speed already did kind of the canyons with carbon and stuff, so it might have felt a little, I don't know,
repetitive.
samey or something. But people want new things.
I guess that's a weird. Yeah. You're kind of existing in like a weird Venn diagram where you want to pay reference to, but not duplicate both video games and the movies, and so like you kind of have like more to worry about than just making a movie, because it's a weird. Like I didn't even think about that. Like you can't do another plot of a video game because you're like, oh, I did that in the Need for Speed game.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Everyone, whether it's games or movies, everyone wants a brand new experience, and that's including me as a fan. I want to see brand new shit. I have not. Sorry, swearing.
You're allowed to swear. No. We swear all the time, brother.
I want to see brand new stuff that the movies have not done before. How do we beat a submarine? Right? How do we beat this, or how do we beat that? How do we have a kind of race wars experience, or a London race, similar kind of vibe, but in a different setting? How do we one up and advance the characters? How do we, give Letty like things to do? How does Dom evolve? Those are all the questions we had, and therefore, we wanted to make sure that the game did things that the movie fans had not seen before, and then also gamers had not seen before. There aren't many games which have two cities and Morocco, a third one as well. Most are all set in a single city or a single location. Very ambitious project and stuff, but influenced completely by the movies. And as I said, with Fate and Too Fast being the key ones there, which is why they probably rank slightly higher in my list than maybe other people's.
Now, before we dive deeper into the actual game itself, the story and all that stuff and how it ties in, we do have some, like I was saying, some very hard-hitting either-or questions. Just to get a sense of who you are. Like, we know who you are based on your rankings, but like how you see yourself, how you view the franchise. Are you ready for these questions?
Let's go.
Do you think you personally are more of a Brian or a Dom?
Brian. Easily. Okay. Dom is very focused on family, will always do the right thing. Brian, on the other hand, a bit more like me, a bit more impulsive. Does he bend the rules? I'm not sure. Does he bend the rules?
Well, that's actually
the question. Yeah.
Which is perfectly leading into it. So we used to ask, is Brian a good cop or a bad cop? And then, now that's kind of a difficult question to answer now, especially in our political climate. So do you think, an easier question might be, is Brian good at his job or is he bad at his job? Because maybe it's not easier, because I don't know the answer to that, but do you think he's good at his job or bad at his job?
I think he's in the wrong job.
Ooh, okay.
I think he, starts off as a cop, goes to the FBI, wants to do the right thing, but ultimately has something inside him which just is screaming to get out. He's a very different person behind the wheel of his flash car with underlighting and nitrous than he is when he's in his suit. Yeah, he's a very different person. And that is he a bad cop or a good cop? He is a good cop, but he sees the flaws in the system, let's say.
Okay.
And therefore, obviously, realizes that he can't really stay in that system, and that's where he stops being a cop. Yeah, is he a good cop or a bad cop? Oh,
it's a tough one, right? It's
a really tough one because you don't want to say he's a bad cop because he does good things, but I don't know. What's been the general consensus on your side?
Oh, there's no. This is one of the consensus.
This is the eternal question for the ages, is it?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Are you more of a Mia or a Letty?
Letty's very much by any means necessary. I think she even says that line in the game. Stop talking. Stop your yapping and just let's get on with it. Right. Very much like that. And I think that's too impulsive. So if Brian was impulsive and running in where the angels fear to tread, like Letty's leading the charge on a horse with a sword, and doing that with anger clouding her judgment. Sometimes I would feel. So I think I'm more Mia, but we need to see more of Mia, right? We don't see enough of Mia. So it's a hard one to say simply because we haven't seen as much of Mia as we do of Letty. But I think Mia's got more of a head on her shoulders, much more balanced as a person. But yeah, we need to see her doing more action, and she's Dom's sister at the end of the day. We need to see more of that relationship as well, more of like Dom, my brother. Like it's always been her and Brian hanging out. So yeah, it would be nice to see the brother-sister relationship explored more, and then also giving her more stuff to do behind the wheel of a car.
Now, this next question might be close to your heart because it is one of the movies that's core to this video game. One of these guys is in the game, one of them is referenced. Are you more of a Tej or a Roman?
Tej, I think.
Designing video games, I mean, that makes sense. Yeah.
I think so. I think it's more because I'm more like Cam in the game, and that is kind of my reference point.
Okay.
I am always looking to the future, watching all the SpaceX launches that happen, waiting for us to go to Mars, always finding kind of a technological or gadget solution for something.
Yeah.
Always trying to see how have we improved things as humans with technology to solve issues and stuff like that. So I am very much more on the tech side, I would say. However, because I also DJ, I'm also on the Roman side. I don't mind being showboating occasionally and stuff. Maybe not. What is it? Shining bright, like they said in Furious 7. So yeah, and being the kind of Joker, sometimes. Yeah. But I would say I would gravitate more towards Tej. Tej is cool as well. He likes his flash cars. He likes his opulence. He's a cool guy. He's got lots of friends and things like that. So he's got a lot of stuff that Roman has too. But he's also got the scientific mind behind it.
Like I think it's the line in 7 or 8 when Roman says to Ramsey, "What are you going to do? Email her?" And it makes me wonder, like, when the last video game that Roman played was. Like, I'm guessing probably like Super Mario, like on the NES. Like, I think like past that, he's just like, no, it's all about women. It's all about ladies. Like, I feel like video games and Roman have diverted from like a long time ago.
Yes, potentially, yes.
Are you more of a Hobbs or a Shaw?
Ooh. I'm a black belt in karate, so I guess more like Shaw, I would say.
Wow. Okay. You can take multitudes. I'm fascinated.
There's so many layers. I know. I'm just unpacking everything here.
Hobbs is the Boy Scout. Hobbs is Captain America, right? Shaw is more like Iron Man, right? A bit more rough around the edges, willing to do things where other people are not willing to tread. Hobbs is the good guy, the family man, the father to his daughter, seemingly solo father to his daughter as well. We'll find out more about that, I'm sure.
Come on. You gotta quit doing this to us, buddy. Come on, man.
I would say, that makes Hobbs awesome. You would want him as your leader. You would want him telling you like what to do and where to go and how to do something. But equally, Shaw's the man that you would send in to actually do the job, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, a bit more like Shaw. And obviously, being British, his humour is a bit more. We've grown up with Jason Statham, from Lock, Stock and Snatch and things like that.
Of course,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, he's a very funny guy. I've heard many of his stories, selling watches on the street in New York when he was younger and things like that. So yeah, he's got a special place in our hearts as well.
I also do want to note that 2 of your 3 favorite movies are probably the 2 most British movies in the franchise between 6 and 7, right? Like, I don't think there's really a surprise there.
No,
I guess
not.
so. Yeah.
So now I don't know if these descriptions carry over to the UK, but are you more of a fan of American Muscle or imports? Now, imports, I guess, to America, because I guess a lot of different things are different. Like, American Muscle is an import to you, but in terms of what we're doing over here, are you more a fan of American Muscle or imports?
I drive a Boss 302 Shelby Mustang in real life, so yeah.
No way.
Yeah, American Muscle, all the way.
God.
It's a replica of the one from Too Fast, the yellow one with the black stripes that's seen in Tej's garage. So yeah, it's beautiful. So yeah, absolutely love American Muscle. I love the Dodge Challenger as well. None of these we get over in England. They've just started bringing the Mustang over here, but it's the steering wheel is on the other side of the on the side of the car,
of
and
course,
also it's half electric, half hybrid. Sorry, yeah, it's not quite as raw as a V6 or a V8 left-hand drive. Yeah, so yeah, that's my preference.
Now, do you prefer Corona or a Belgian ale?
I've got some Coronas behind me actually. So
Nice.
yeah, Corona. I used to work in a Mexican restaurant, so we used to sell Corona all the time. Corona and Desperados were the 2 beers that we used to sell all the time, and San Miguel as well. So yeah, Corona.
You're gonna have we'll skip ahead to that right now because there's a specific question. It's not a Mexican restaurant; it's a Cuban restaurant, but it's a it's a similar question that we're gonna ask you later. I'll jump to it now. So in the first movie, this is kind of like a very minor line, but we're going by. In addition to rewatching over and over in the laps, we're breaking the movie down minute by minute. So we're almost at the end of the first movie. But in the first movie, if you remember, Brian and Mia are doing the dishes, and Vince comes in all drunk, verbally abusive toward Brian, and Mia wants to get the name of Cha 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 so that she can invite Brian out to a date, right? And she describes to Vince, it's that place with the red candles, the wood tables, the food all over the place.
Plantain.
So if you're thinking about a restaurant, if we're like, Andy, you're in America, you're over in New York, like, come out, we're going to take you out, we're going to take you to a great restaurant, there's wood tables, there's little red candles, there's food all over the place. What is the description of a restaurant having food all over the place mean to you?
When you said that, I mean, you're obviously describing quite a nice steakhouse or bistro or whatever, but when you say food all over the place, it makes it sound like Chuck E. Cheese, right? Or something, where there's just kids have just been all over the place and just like ruined the entire area by throwing food. I don't know, a buffet? What is that? Eat food all over the place. I'm not sure what
We've
that
been
description
wondering.
is.
Yeah.
Food all over the place. I don't know. I would say a buffet, like an all-you-can-eat buffet.
Okay.
Yeah, with like long tables where you just go up and help yourself to it and then go back, sit down.
Like if we ever get a chance to talk to Jordana Brewster, like, we're gonna have lots of questions, but like that's gonna be like maybe the first question. Be like, what? Like, was that in the script? Like, what did you mean when you said food all over the place? Because like we don't know.
Yeah, or like a fancy steakhouse where they put the cuts of beef on the walls or something. So I don't know, or a wine, or whether a wall of wine. I don't know. Yeah, what a strange line that is. Yeah.
Yeah. I have no idea I thought I was going to know where this question might go, but I really don't know. If we're pulling a job, are you more a racer or a designer? Are you actually out in the field doing the job, or are you the man in the chair back in HQ helping get it done?
I'd be a getaway driver, I think.
Okay.
Oh.
The reason being that obviously, I design games and have done for many years. But things change over time. The design and the plan that you have at the beginning is not what you end up with the end. You think something's awesome when you're in the shower dreaming that idea up. and then you go in and you do it, and you're like, oh, this isn't quite working out. And so plans change. I would not want to be the person. I would not want to be Burke, like in early Aliens, back in the APC, seeing Frost and Apone and stuff like that, getting their shit handed to them by the aliens and stuff like that, and not being able to actually jump in and help. I would rather be one of those guys behind the wheel, being able to react second by second, split second.
Love it.
And also, you know, the adrenaline of it. You know, we've been on the racing track many times as a team, and there's nothing like driving a car really, really fast. So yeah, I would have to be behind the wheel.
All right, the three of us are in the field. We're about to pull out a job, and we're like, Andy, we know you're a DJ. We know you love music.
You shine
You're up
bright.
there.
You shine
We need you
bright.
to shine bright.
God.
We need you, just like Roman in 7, we need you to distract them. We need you to sing a song karaoke style. You need to capture the entire room's attention, and so Joe and I can like sneak around the back room and like do the thing we need to do. What song are you singing karaoke style? What's your distraction song?
Oh my god. There's got to be something that was going to attract a lot of attention, doesn't it? So it's either got to be something really bad, like, I don't know, just one. I just think of the worst song that you can think of, Gangnam Style or something like that.
Okay.
So you're just screaming that out of the side of the window, out of the window. Everyone's going to be looking round at you at that point. Or you have to do something car-based. So, I don't know, Gary Newman Cars or Little Red Corvette by Prince or something.
Good choices, man.
I don't know.
Love it.
I know which one would make me go faster, though. Put Motley Crue's Kickstart My Heart on.
Okay.
If you just crank that up to 11, and then that'll make you go faster.
So now maybe that's the song that's playing on the radio. We just pulled the job, but we have one more stunt to pull. Would you rather drive a car, knowing you're going to be safe either way, drive a car into a plane that's taking off, just like they do at the end of 6, or to get back home to sort of save the day, to seal the deal, drive a car out of a plane and be GPS parachute guided to the ground? Would you rather drive a car into a plane or out of a plane, and we can have Kickstart My Heart playing on the radio?
I drive into the plane. That's easier, isn't it? No, I don't know. You've only got a ramp. You just need to drive it up there, and the worst that could happen is it just roll. You don't put the parking brake on, and it just rolls back onto the infinitely long runway or something. Or you know, GPSing out of a plane, you might go upside down potentially if you fall the wrong way and stuff. I'm not that good on roller coasters, so I would say drive onto the plane.
Okay.
Seems a lot easier.
We are back home in HQ. We're safe. They're saying, Andy, we're gonna celebrate. Pandemic is over. We're going to Vegas. We're going to Monte Carlo. We're going to wherever we're going. We're going anywhere you want to go. We're going to the roulette table. Are you putting all of your winnings on black? Or putting it all on red?
Wesley Snipes always bet on black. No?
There we go.
Amen. Yep.
Now, in a devastating turn of events, things don't go well. Our job has not gone well. We're all about to die. The weird part of this is that you get to pick how you die. Would you rather die in a fiery explosion or drowning in icy water?
Oh, God.
Both of which happen in the franchise, but I don't know if one's better than the other. There's a real split here, but fiery explosion or icy water?
Is Icy Water one of the bad guys in Fate of the Furious or something?
It's kind of like at the end when Roman almost drowns, yeah.
Oh, people say that your life flashes before your eyes when you drown, don't you? So I don't know, but then fiery death sounds awful.
Oh, they're both bad. They're both real bad.
Yeah, they're not good.
Icy Water? Are you definitely going to die here?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, right. Okay. No, go out in a ball of fire. Let's say that.
Okay.
Just go out in a blaze of glory.
It's cooler, right? It's
Yeah.
definitely cooler.
How did he die? Well, funny story. He exploded with light emitted from his body as he crashed his car 200 miles an hour into a fireworks factory.
But the good news is that he picked the way he wanted to go, and that's how he wanted to go out.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, there's a couple more. Is the word oil one syllable or two?
One. Oil.
Thank you.
Oil. Yeah, one.
Okay.
Ooh, is that divisive? I don't know.
Well, so it
You
stems
worked
from,
yourself into two. I heard it there.
I was trying to see the other way, but the other way is clearly wrong, so that's fine.
it stems from like a decade old, even predating this podcast by far, but like charades debate, because I had the word oil and I thought it was 2, and I was basically told, no, you're wrong. And then since then, sort of a lot of people have come to my side, but in this game it's kind of an even split. So yeah, it's just curious because it's car related, so I figured we might as well ask it.
Gotcha.
Now, I don't know if either of these are over in the UK, but do you prefer In-N-Out or Whataburger?
In-N-Out is overrated as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, no.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Thank you, bud.
sorry. I'm over in LA a lot. An In-N-Out burger there is obviously a big tourist trap. You guys, whereabouts in the States are you guys from?
We're near New York.
Over in LA, I think it's on La Brea, which is very, very close to Hollywood and Highland. So it's full of tourists. And obviously everyone thinks, oh my god, I've got to go to In-N-Out Burger. There's a queue out the car park all day, every day, like Pink's hot dogs. And the burger itself is not great. There's
fine,
better
yeah.
burgers out there. It's fine, exactly. It's fine. It's fine. The other one, however, I haven't tasted, so I can't say.
Yeah,
but
it's
In-N-Out
specific
Burger
to
for
like
me
the
is
Texas,
over.
the South. Is there a burger chain over in the UK that we don't know, that might not know about, that you like?
So at the moment, there's a big thing of kind of gourmet burgers. It's no good to just have 2 buns, a patty, throw some lettuce on there. Now it has to have, a certain type of French cheese that is only grown cheese. It was only created on a cheese tree. It's only created in one area of France, and then the pickle has got to be from, I don't know, Madagascar or something, and then it's got to have a honey dressing which has been soaking for 3 years in a whatever. Right? These gourmet burgers are really taking off at the moment. So there is a company called the Gourmet Burger Kitchen over here, which which I don't believe is international. I may be wrong there, but if you are in the UK, please don't go to a popular fast food chain that may be out there. Please go and find just one of these places that does do gourmet burgers. There's a few like that. I think that there's Gourmet Burger Kitchen, and there's another one called Honest or something like that, I think it's called.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. I respect that. No preface, no details. Revenge of the Nerds or The Dark Knight?
Admission, I've never seen Revenge of the Nerds, I'm afraid. Sorry.
It's okay. So you're not alone.
Oh, thank God. Dark Knight.
Okay.
I think I did the 30-day film challenge thing on Twitter. The Dark Knight was clearly, for me, the greatest superhero movie made so far. Avengers Endgame is Infinity War are fantastic, brilliant, excellent movies that have taken a long time and many, many years to build up towards, and oh my God, we live in a world where we can even have those movies. Dark Knight, if I'm flicking through the channels, doesn't matter where it is in that movie, I'm watching it all the way through to the end if I flick over to it. Doesn't matter if it's the beginning, doesn't matter if, with the Joker pulling off the bank heist, doesn't matter if it's the end when he's taking him down. Yeah, fantastic movie.
One more sort of difficult question, and then one easy question, maybe, and then we can actually get into the discussion. I told you it was going to be a while. So, in 7, another very sort of throwaway line. Actually, you might. So, of all the people we've talked to, you might actually have insight into this. I don't know that you will, but in 7, they're around the table. They're talking about No Knees Denise. And Roman taking down, the only thing I ever saw him take down, Brian says, is No Knees Denise. And Roman says, Brian, you really going to do that right now? If you hear someone has no knees, what does that mean to you? What does that connote to you?
So I know exactly what that means.
What?
Really?
I don't know how lewd you want to do this. I'll try
no, be as lewd as you want. We want answers.
I'll try and
answers.
Skirt around it slightly. If how do I say this politely? I'd say if a girl is said to have no knees, it is because she has been on her knees a lot performing a certain act.
Okay.
And her knees have kind of been rubbed through with carpet burns badly.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what that means. I hope I've been delicate enough there. That
is that possibly like a UK colloquialism, or is that just something that I don't? Because
how are you so confident in the answer? Yeah.
It's, how do you say it? Not a common phrase, but it's a phrase that if you heard it in England, you would understand what that meant.
Okay.
So that's probably where
that was kind of our best guess, but it's also like it's a weird kind of like it doesn't quite make sense. Like if you dive real deep down that rabbit hole, it doesn't really make sense, but
it is exactly what you're thinking.
Wow.
The final question, and I think you might have given the answer before, do you have a favorite character in this franchise?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Han, definitely.
Okay.
Just I think there's another character who's just as cool as Han is in the movies. Other characters have fantastic moments, and you want to be them, and they do super heroic stuff, and you're like, God, yeah, I wish that was me, or like, yeah, I wish I was in that car with them doing that thing. Han's just a cool guy, just says these cool little throwaway little lines that are really funny in a really understated way. Really cool guys. He's had good choice of cars, and all his cars are really, again, that word cool keeps coming out, just really cool cars like the Veilside Mazda and stuff like that. Yeah, it's got to be Han. Now, who would it be in the movies? Who comes on screen and I'm always like interested in, it's their scene.
I mean, now he's back. I mean, I don't know how much more you know than we do, but he's back. So I mean, the answer could still or once again be Han, but
he. Oh, I don't know what to say. Let's see whether he's changed. Yeah, or not.
Stop, man! Oh, you're killing me over here.
I'm not saying anything. I'm just speculating. Yeah.
Okay. I respect that. Let us dive into the world of Fast and Furious Crossroads. Now that we know who you are, now we know a little bit more. Like I didn't expect to know that to be speaking to a black belt in karate. I mean, that's
DJ, game designer. You're a man of all talents.
Yeah, you get bored otherwise, don't you? I mean, there's a reason. There's a reason for all of them. DJing started because I grew up doing that when I was a kid. Carried it all the way through that. Gaming came from my dad was a teacher and I'm an only child, so when I wasn't playing with kids in the streets, he was always bringing home like these cool new computers and consoles and stuff like that. And I was good at art, so I'd literally just put art and computing together and then started doing that. And then karate came from, I wanted my kids to learn karate, and then I was like, well, I used to do this as a kid. What could I do? Could I either just sit there watching him do it? I was like, no, I'm going to pick it up again, and then carried it on from there. So yeah, otherwise,
cool.
you get bored, don't you? I've got a archery thing in the back garden with a bow. Stupidly went out and bought an Olympic bow. But you have to have something to do, don't you? Especially during lockdown.
You're real life living Fast and the Furious, man. I can't believe it.
Yeah, he's an automancer in real life.
You're a character. Yeah. When are you going to be in the movies? Jeez.
Well, yeah, it's the same with Idris Elba. He's actor and DJ and does all these great TV programs. A big fan of his. Yeah, I think I agree that you have to keep yourself busy. It's good to have one hobby every year, and especially during lockdown when everyone's been so bored and they've only got things to do at home. Really, yeah, why not pick something up or a new skill whilst you're at it?
I love it. So now this lap 7, we are focusing specifically on Letty. And obviously, she's not in a handful of the movies. And, in our off episodes, we're covering Michelle Rodriguez movies and then movies about memory loss to tie in thematically. And so we were thrilled to see so much Letty in the game because we're specifically focusing on Letty. But the conversation question we're kicking everything off is, if you had to pick, and we'll talk about the game now, if you had to pick the most Letty moment in the game, what do you think she does, that her character does in this movie, or this game, in the game, that kind of defines or is like emblematic of her character? I got one thing in mind, but I kind of want to hear from you first if there's something in here that she does that you're like, oh, that's Letty to her core.
So the way we approached Letty, we ourselves, in the previous movies, Ramsey calls her Mrs. Alpha because she clearly spots that Letty is the one in charge here alongside Dom. If we look at the movies, she hasn't had that moment to shine as a leader. She's such an important part of the franchise, such an important character, and her relationship with Dom and the fans who, love Dom and Letty and call them Vinchelle and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And do the Dom and Letty fan fiction, all stuff. She's hugely important, and she's had great moments. Including like 2 great fist fights in the movies and stuff.
Yes.
But I personally felt Dom could almost take a step back just quickly and leave her in charge because she's so capable that. And that's where the idea came from to split them up at the beginning of the game. Like Dom goes off to New Orleans, leaves Letty in charge of the Barcelona side of the operation, and that meant we could really let Letty give her time to breathe, especially in the context of she's meeting up with this new crew and has them under her wing as well. And as we were writing the script and kind of plotting out the story and stuff, we already knew that Letty was going to be absolutely massive in the game and have such an important role. And then, of course, we heard from Michelle. I think I can't remember now. I think it was either a post she put on social media or it was an interview in a magazine where she said, look, if I don't get more stuff to do in this franchise, then I may not come back. I think I'm paraphrasing, so please fact check this, but I think she said words to the effect of, I've had very little dialogue with my fellow female compatriots in these movies, and that needs to be rectified. And here we were with the game script for the game thinking, brilliant, this is exactly what she's been asking for. And the actors are involved at every point in this process of creating the game. So we fired that script over to her and her managers and stuff like as soon as possible, right? That got the ball rolling with including Michelle in the game and allowing us to go with what we'd planned with having Letty in such a prominent role.
Yeah, because there's like long stretches of the game where it's just Letty and Vienna and Cam, and like Dom,
not even
Dom's
Dom.
nowhere to be seen.
Exactly. Dom, we approached with he sets you on your journey, like, right, you guys do this. I'll meet back up with you later. He ends scenes. He always gets the last word, like, where are you going? Shopping or something like that. He always kind of ends scenes in a kind of matter-of-fact kind of way. And then he always turns up at the most appropriate moment. You're like, well, just when we need some cars, here he is. Just when we need a fireproof car, you're like, here he is, That's the way we approached it. And it wasn't because we wanted less Dom in the game, it's just we wanted to use him sparingly at his most heroic moments, and we also knew that we wanted to give Letty therefore much more of a pivotal role in there. So in terms of what are her most pivotal moments, there's a few. There's a bit when, right in the opening scene, the guy's about to attack Dom, and she's got it covered. She's got a gun trained on, and she knocks the guy out. And he's like, "Oh, thanks, babe." And it's a slightly comedic moment there, meant to be like that. The guy goes down like a sack of potatoes. He's supposed to like fall down, like that. In Barcelona, it's hard to say that she's kind of pivotal, but because she's playing a very careful game in that she's only giving this new crew the information that they need to know at the time. So it's hard to say that she's being her true self during the Barcelona sections. In Morocco, she's more of the kind of story exposition person, like saying, we've been following him here, and he's been hard to track down, all that kind of stuff. So I think her biggest moments really come later in the game in New Orleans. If I could think of one, it's when she's talking to Vienna about Cam, and she's having that kind of heart-to-heart with Vienna after the Fuel Fiesta race. And she's kind of digging deep a little bit because her and Vienna have had a bit of conflict over how to approach that age-old question of, do you save one or save millions? And she decided to go with the bigger picture of saving millions, whereas all Vienna really cares about is going after Kai. So she's really kind of trying to repair a relationship at that point there, and that feels very Letty. That makes me feel of those quiet moments that Dom and Letty have, where the Spanish guitar is just playing in the background. It's just like two people having this really tender moment. So that feels like Letty to me. That little trying to build a bridge back with Vienna, and then later on, maybe when they're racing after Ormstrad, and she's kind of almost kind of going to arrest him in a way, and she's got the gun trained on him, and she's like, enough of your stuff. What, a tiger never changes its stripes. And then when it all goes wrong, and they're like, did we lose? And then she's like, not on my watch. And it's like, yeah, that's it, go on, Letty. And then you're like, to the Batmobile, and then off they go to go and save the world and stuff. So I think we peppered a few bits in there, whether it's the emotional, tender side or the kind of like go-getting, let's go kick some ass kind of side throughout. Which were the ones you were thinking of?
There was one, and especially, having just watched this week Fast and Furious 4, there's the moment in the game, I think it's probably about halfway or two-thirds of the way through, when you're kind of hacking the truck and you're taking down the turrets and you're jumping on and whatever, and they're decoupling things. And just knowing in the beginning of 4, when she jumps onto the oil tankers, right? And then here you see Letty again jumping on, just like that fearless, like something needs to get done, I'm going to get it done. I'm like, that's Letty. Like, to me, like, that's, like, the tender stuff is, I mean, we also just watched Los Bandoleros again. I don't know if you've seen that, but, that's my favorite Letty. Like, I love the tender, just, like, not taking any shit from Dom and just busting his balls. And I love that. But then just when the things need to happen, like, she's the one doing the things usually, and going to see her jump on there. I loved it.
That was why we had the truck heist with Sebastian jumping onto the truck and making quite a big deal of, she calls him rookie, like, you're rookie, you're up, because she's done this before, right? And that's where we wanted these two parallels. Sebastian jumping to the truck, it's his first time playing it by ear. We forced your car to crash out at that point, so you're so it gives a bit of distance between you and the truck, so you're kind of fearing, is he still hanging on to the end of the truck? By the time you've caught it up, things are happening at a million miles an hour. Maurizio reappears. Kai, obviously, we find out that he was the driver in the car, reappears. Things are happening so fast, and it's all a bit kind of chaotic and on purpose. There's cars coming out from everywhere and jumping from a road up above you. It's just crazy town. And we wanted that to show you that by the time you get to the train, it's a lot more structured. That mission starts with all 4 of you in your cars, the equivalent of you all in your, Iron Man or Captain America or Spider-Man suits. It's all very structured. It's do this, it's take the containers off, take the turrets off, jump to the train. You're not the one jumping first. Letty kind of shows you how it's done, and then you do it. It's far more regimented to show you, she's done this before, and this is how a high-speed heist, a high-speed strike team, works, really. So they were purposely done like that. Because we wanted to show Letty in her natural habitat, let's say, which is jumping onto something or hanging onto something in the spirit of saving the world.
And Joe, do you have a moment that stands out to you that we have not talked about yet?
I liked Andy's point about the tenderness, because we do get some tender Letty moments. When I was watching her peer into Vienna, that was a very Letty moment for me as well. And obviously jumping onto the train. So
us having just talked about Too Fast and us, continually talking about Letty, it just felt like the game in a way was like being made for us. And it was just like, this is, I mean,
strange.
Everything that Fast and Furious feels like it's made for us specifically, but like those in particular were like, oh, okay, very cool.
Absolutely. As I said, when you said what's your relationship with the franchise? I'm a massive fan. So we wanted to put all that stuff in there because we knew that fans like yourselves and all the other people who have shown so much love for the game are picking up on it and really appreciating it. We really hope you do fall in love with Vienna and Cam and petition Vin to put them in future movies and stuff turn up
hope.
For a long time on this podcast we've talked about representation and talking about how like the franchise is incredibly representative, but like for better or worse, maybe just a product of the time or whatever, just because there's so many characters already, it doesn't do a great job with queer representation. And especially early on, and we just talked about it for Fast and Furious number 4, like there's kind of a fetishization of like women, like, oh look, there's 2 hot ladies making out in this party, like isn't that cool, dude? And like we had a theory for a long time that Hobbs was gay because he's so asexual for the most part. Like he's got a daughter, we don't know where the daughter kind of came from, but like we were hoping that it would be so cool if Hobbs just like, oh yeah, my partner or like my boyfriend or what, just like, not make a big deal about it, but just be like, oh yeah, whatever. So we're playing a game and, we see Vienna and Cam, we're like, oh, that's so cool. Like it seems like they're, a couple, they're using they and them for pronouns for Cam. We're like, wait a minute. Like this is
we were
remarkable.
Taken aback. Yeah. I'm watching it with my wife. We're playing with Joey. We're just like, who are they talking about? Like, is there another sibling here? We don't know. And we were just like, this is awesome. this is exactly what we wanted.
And like between this and like the Spy Racers cartoon, the Netflix thing, which actually in a similar way to something you were saying earlier, kind of uses Dom sparingly, like, hey, we're going to set you up, but this is about other characters that you don't know yet. There's a gay couple in that too, and I feel like for a franchise that is kind of diverse and welcoming, but also not to generalize, but like I feel like car culture and stuff like doesn't always equate, we should say, with like openness and whatever. And for you guys to include a story about a queer couple, but then also like a agender, they, them, like it blew my mind how like progressive it was in a canonical Fast and Furious thing. So if you could talk about like how that started and like where that came from, and like the characters are great, the relationship is great, and for it to be so front and center, it's just kind of amazing and like a breath of fresh air.
The first thing was we were just like, this franchise has too many white bald people, right? So on a purely visual level, it was like we can't introduce new characters which similarly are just white bald people. Equally, as the movies have carried on, we saw that, you know, it is mostly male dominated. That just felt like if we were to introduce like new male characters, it would just be retreading old ground or ground that we'd already done. So very early on, we were like, our leads are not going to be male. And then it came down to characters. So it wasn't a case of going, oh, we're going to have a black African American woman and we're going to have a non-binary actor playing these. Like, it was like, no, let's create the characters first. So the characters were created as, you know, Vienna is strong, has something, so a trauma in her past. She's the head of her family. She's always looking back with regret, always trying to protect her family. Those are qualities that you can also apply to Dom. Trauma in his past, always looking out for his family, regretting something in the past, his actions, how he's, you know, portrayed himself or whatever, but is always looking out for the best. We wanted the person that would play opposite Vienna to literally be the opposite, so that we have that relationship between those two, which is more akin to how Dom and Brian were in the first movies, where they weren't that brotherhood just yet. They developed that, as I said, you know, towards, you know, Fast 4, and then obviously went on to be that brotherhood. And we wanted to kind of flip that on its head, or do it in parallel, but do have them as an existing sibling rivalry there, as opposed to just complete opposites who had never met each other. We wanted them to at least have history with each other, and therefore it came as I said, with wanting Cam to be the opposite. So if Vienna's always looking at the past, Cam's always looking at the front. If Vienna's the one who's always regretting things in the past, Cam's the one who's always jumping into new situations, maybe too rashly sometimes. And that then creates great conflict. So the way I thought about it when we were writing the script and coming up with the original concept was, this is Anakin and Obi-Wan. Yeah? This is Obi-Wan trying to raise Anakin to be his equal, yeah, to be a Jedi Knight, but Anakin is always trying to go for the quick route, not wanting to stay the test of time, and wanting to take the quick path, that the little bickering that they have, but also they've got each other's backs. Yep. So when the lightsabers ignite, boom, they're off, and they can trust each other. They can fight back to back. Yeah, you know, you know that they could be someone that you can trust on, and that's kind of where it all started from. The trauma that they have is from Cam's past and how they met Vienna, bonded over cars and all that kind of stuff, and then formed a friendship, and then whatever happened in Miami with the street race that was interfered with, that's the thing that is a thorn in their side. They are equals. Vienna and Cam are absolute equals. Again, let's go with popular culture references again. So like Captain America and Iron Man, you know, absolute equals, different sides of the coin, but they are equals. They are not Batman and Robin. They are not sidekicks, yeah? And that's where the conflict comes from with Vienna and Cam, that Cam constantly thinks that Vienna, because Vienna kind of grew up and kind of fostered Cam in a way whilst they were growing up, Cam is always underneath Vienna's shadow, as it were. Cam desperately wants to grow out of that, and does. in the game. Vienna says at one point, like, I know I don't say it enough, but I know you can handle yourself. That's awesome. And then and it's actually Dom who sees the potential in Cam and says, you're gonna do the Fuel Fiesta race, and Cam then eagerly is like, well, I've put a tracker on the car, blah blah blah, and all that kind of stuff. And then they grow out of their shell, out of Vienna's wing. Vienna sees that herself, and finally the resolution at the end of the game is that, yeah, you always were my equal, you always were my partner here, and we've both grown as people. And now that brotherhood that Dom and Brian have is absolutely solidly cemented, for eternity now. If there were future games, or if we saw these characters in the future again, Vienna and Cam would have each other's backs and wouldn't be bickering about Miami and wanting to go back there all over again. That's all over now.
Living in Barcelona. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, they were written as those characters, and then we went to then go and find the right people who would personify those characters. Knowing that we didn't want white, bald males, we looked at other actors out there, and Sonequa Martin-Green was really, really high up on the list of potentials for Vienna. And that came from, her work on The Walking Dead as Sasha. It came from her work on Star Trek Discovery as Michael Burnham, a character who has trauma in her past and is trying to rise up through the ranks in Starfleet and stuff like that. It just felt like she was the perfect person for the role. And you start closing your eyes and thinking, okay, her on screen with Dom, are they equals? Can they stand back to back wearing, ripped off sleeveless shirts with baseball bats in their hand? Can you imagine Dom going, Vienna, you go and do this. Letty, you go and do this. Can you imagine him giving Vienna orders and her going yeah, or busting his chops and going, no, that's a crap idea, Dom. Let's do this instead. We were like, is that going to work? And we're like, yeah, I think it does. So obviously we approached Sonequa, and she absolutely loved the idea, loved the fact that, as you said, the representation and diversity that there has been in the franchise for so many years was now continuing on. Vienna as a character quite happily stands next to all the other characters in the franchise and feels different compared to the other females in there, like Mia, obviously a parent now in the franchise, like Letty, who is Mrs. Alpha, and like Giselle, who's got lost, and like Ramsey, who's the tech head. Vienna is a different role, and very definitely feels like she fits there.
We agree.
And then when it came to Cam, we looked for an actor who could personify that short, terse, quippy kind of character. Kate Dillon, who was playing Taylor on Billions at the time and still is, just felt like they would be able to say that dialogue with such a bitterness in their voice, like that resentment that is there. But then, having seen interviews with Asia on things like Ellen, you also saw that Asia had a really kind, warm tone as well. If we're going to have the character as Cam start out with this resentment and bitterness and stuff, and then grow and flourish and come out from Vienna's wing, then by the end of the game, as you can hopefully see in that performance, Cam is far more like, is he serious? Like, oh my god, this is awesome, I love this country. Like, is far more happy, far more lighter toned, and not all that resentment has kind of gone, and therefore Kate Dillon was just the perfect person to take that role on. The fact that they are non-binary as well, identify as non-binary, made it just feel all the more correct that once again we were also diversifying in gender identity as well as race or religion or whatever it may be. Yeah, it came from writing the characters first and then finding the actors and going after specific actors that would not only continue the cultural diversity of the movies, but also bring something new to the table in the way that they brought those characters to life as well. Sebastian was more difficult because we knew we were going to kill him. So, so Sebastian, we very carefully looked at who can we model this character after that no one's going to mind? No one's going to think, oh, they're trying to replace Paul Walker. This is obviously the kind of white, young, attractive guy for the franchise. We very purposely made very specific decisions about what he looked like and the way he talked, his role in the game, not being the leader, being the person in trouble who needed the help, so you feel sorry for him, things like that. Knowing that then when we obviously kill him off, that hopefully is a surprise, you know?
Yeah, it was a surprise to us, for sure.
Because we've set it up like, hang on, this is young guy. He's got like the trendy beard. He's got the trendy clothes. There's nothing bad about him. You know, you feel sorry for him. And then when he dies, I hope people go, oh, I wasn't expecting that. Oh, damn. Right. Okay. And now it's not a guy rescuing the princess story. Now it's the princesses or the queens, you know, rescuing and getting revenge for the king dying, as it were. So
and you kill him off early too. Like he does not last very long.
Yeah. I mean, there's only I think there were some early versions of the script where he did survive and died in Morocco, I believe, but it just worked better that it made more sense for his death to come early, because that's generally what you would do is a catalyst, exactly, and have it in his hometown and have it when he's trying to do something good, trying to get himself out of the situation, and it just made more sense for it to go there as opposed to later.
One other actor that I want to bring up, because he holds a special place in our heart here on the podcast network, because we started out with a Nicolas Cage podcast, then a Keanu Reeves podcast.
Cool.
And one actor in particular kept popping up over and over and over again, to the point where we eventually inducted him into a non-existent Hall of Fame. We gave him an honorary Lifetime Achievement Award. Peter Stormare is just so... Joe and I know him. I mean, I first remember him from John Abruzzi on Prison Break, right? Like,
Amen.
It's almost like casting him as just like, I don't mean this as a negative. It's just like, oh, my work's done, because like he's so defined and so cool and so like menacing, and like, how does his character, like, how does Ormstead, like, how does that work in here? And is that a guy that you were also targeting, or did you just like luck into one of the coolest sort of character actor bad guys around right now?
This was before Fate had come out, so we were writing the story before. Well, we knew about Cypher, but we didn't know what kind of, like, how much Charlize would, you know, chew the scenery and just become this, you know, great, visually striking and also quite, you know, manipulative, snake-like, you know, character and stuff. So we were writing our bad guy with the franchise not really having had kind of celebrity bad guys, as it were, by that point. Owen Shaw was, I mean, he's a great actor. Luke Evans is a fantastic actor. We know him a lot over here in England, and obviously Braga and stuff, but there hadn't been a Idris Elba, there hadn't been a Charlize Theron at that point. We knew that our bad guy had to have a little bit more gravitas to him in order to... By this point, the crew have been through so much and saved the world numerous times. Was it 5, Hobbs says in Hobbs and Shaw? Or 4? I can't remember.
Well, that's another thing, It's like how... And I want to get to this later, but like, how do you write a game where you're like, I guess we have to save the world, because like that's just what these people do, right?
Exactly. So we were writing the story at a time, when there hadn't really been celebrity villains at that point, but we did know Hobbs and Shaw was happening. We had heard the rumours of Idris Elba playing Brixton, and we knew Charlize Theron was playing Cypher, so we were like, okay, our villain has to be a big name actor. By that point, we'd already had the idea of, if we don't get a big name actor, he has to have the gravitas within the story that he is connected to the franchise behind the scenes somehow. When we were writing the exposition for him, he had to be older, so that he had to have been around, you know, I don't know, since the first movies or something, you know. So he could have known Braga, he could have known Carter Verone, all that kind of stuff, if we'd wanted to drop those names. The ones we chose, obviously, were Cypher, Owen Shaw, because it felt like in Furious 6 starts with a truck has been blown up in Moscow, and we're like, how's that happened? Hence, in the game, one of the pictures is, you know, Ormstrad stood in front of the Kremlin. Sorry, St. Peter's Basilica. And obviously there's a kind of blurred out image of Cypher as well in the game too. So we knew our villain was going to be connected to the bad guys, because in the movies you get to spend time with the villains, seeing what they're doing whilst the heroes are doing their bits. But in games you don't. I mean, we can't, other than cinematics, we can't really keep cutting to him and having gameplay with him. We knew that every time he was on screen, he had to really have importance. And therefore we knew we had to have an actor that as soon as you saw him, he brought with him a lot of filmic baggage, let's say. Like, you know him as a bad guy from other movies that you've seen him in. So our list of those actors was absolutely huge. I think it got up to about 30 to 50 at one point. Peter Stormare was constantly at the top, because he's played so many bad guys or people of ill repute or whatever, at the time. I think John Wick 2 was one of the most recent movies at the time. And obviously Constantine, that he's awesome in. I mean, people remember him from Armageddon as well, So Peter Stormare was just, is he the right age? Yeah, I think he is. He's about the right age. Or we can age him up, certainly, for the story. Does he bring that gravitas of, he's played a villain before and you kind of know what to expect? Yes. Can we do something new with him? Yes, he's a brilliant actor. The original name for the bad guy was Delacroix, because he was going to be French, which is why the kind of French and French connection in New Orleans was there. Once we knew that Peter Stormare was interested, we changed the name of the bad guy to Ormstrud, which means snake fight in Swedish.
Ooh.
And for the actor, we wanted him to be able to, not put on yet another Eastern European accent. And therefore we let the bad guy be Swedish, let Peter be a Swedish villain, and kind of crafted it around him once we knew that he was on board. That was a bit more organic, that one. So the character kind of changed, the way that he spoke changed. Peter came in with loads of notes, and dialogue changed in the voice recording session.
Interesting.
The snake fight concept then went into the name of the company that he uses, which is OCM, and the logo is a snake against some Moroccan mountains. So again, we kind of just really crafted Peter, crafted the Ormstrud character and the Ormstrud empire around Peter.
It makes sense. When we were playing this game, we were thinking, because you're designing it and stuff like that, do you have a personal actor that you want to add to the movies? One of your favorites, somebody that you think could play, it doesn't need to be a villain, but even if you could add someone to this franchise, who would you add?
Billie Eilish.
Ooh. Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Would you give her a musical role like Rita Ora, or would you give her a full role?
She is on my list if a sequel were to ever happen.
I love that.
That's
Reason
great.
being, if you go young with, the franchise could do with a bit more youth in there.
Agreed. Yeah.
And it would also be a great link back to street racing, as in what is, a youthful car culture scene like now, with somebody who's living it right now, of the Generation Z TikTok generation. What is car culture like to them? Because that has not been represented in the movies. The street racing and car culture scene that is in there is what we've grown up with. It's not necessarily what the kids of today, God, that makes me sound old, are into and stuff. Having somebody in there who is younger, who is cool, also has expressed that they are into cars as well. I think her dad loves cars, or had cars around Billy when she was growing up. Yeah, I think she'd be phenomenal. And if you introduce her as some sort of liaison to the youthful street racing scene, and then obviously you realise that she's awesome and has her own set of skills that she brings to the table, and then joins the team there. I think that then has quite a nice dynamic, in that it's got the youth there, it's got the slightly older characters, if it is Vienna and Cam in the game, someone like Roman and Tej, and then you've got the head of the family with Dom and Letty. Yeah, I think you get almost a really wide generational blend there.
bridge.
Yeah, so I think
sure.
someone like that, definitely.
Kind of answered, sort of talked about this in a few different ways, but in terms of as you're writing this game to sort of narratively take place ostensibly, I guess, between 8 and, I guess kind of a two-part question. When does this take place? We're assuming kind of between 8 and 9. I mean, definitely after 8, because as we've talked about, you're referencing
Cypher.
8. Yeah. But, like, so when does this take place? Is this happening while Hobbs and Shaw is going on? Who knows? But, like, because I'm sure you know more than what you're allowed to say. But, like,
yeah.
How does knowing what happened ahead of time in 8, and I'm sure knowing some things about 9, and knowing some things maybe about Hobbs and Shaw, like, how do you balance all of this? Is this, like, part of the official canon? Is this kind of like his own sort of side story? Like, how does that all blend? Because, like, especially adding in the added complication of, like, the movie getting delayed by a year and this getting delayed by a couple months, like, there's all these wrinkles. Like, we were kind of worried when we were like, oh, is this going to spoil part of 9? Because, like, if this is going to come out around 9, like, I think it was supposed to come out, like, almost immediately after 9, and we were like, oh, should we not play it? Like, we don't want to, and it's independent of it, but, like, there's a lot of moving parts here. So I'd love to hear sort of a little bit more about, like, the narrative and where it fits in and how you balance trying to be in between all these things, especially as coronavirus changes everything about everything.
When we were writing it, we got early versions of the Fast 8 script, the Fate script. We knew what was going to be happening in that, like who the bad guy was, the general idea that Dom's going to go rogue, but didn't know the ending, didn't really know how that final scene happens with Mr. Nobody saying Cypher was last seen in Athens.
Yes.
So we found that out quite late as the movie was heading towards release, and therefore we changed the beginning of the game. So the game was originally going to start with the truck heist to the point when Sebastian jumps and Vienna goes no, and the car crashes out, and then it was going to rewind and say 3 days earlier, and then you would start back in Barcelona, and then it would tell you how you got to that point, which was a very common trope that happens in TV and film, knowing that the expectation would be, who are these guys? Who are these people we're playing as? Yes, you would have the nostalgia of, hey, we're driving 3 blacked out cars with green underlighting, and we're racing after a truck, and I bet it's got some VCRs in there and all that kind of stuff. I bet, the fans would have been like, oh, this is awesome. But also they might have been going, who am I playing as? We haven't seen them on screen at this point. We're just playing blacked out cars. You don't know who's the driver. You can't visualize who those people are. So we were like, no, we've got to have Dom and Letty as the opening people, don't we? Because then we can have them get out of the cars, we can see them, we can go, oh yeah, it's the people I know and love. Off we go to the races. Now the mystery is afoot. Off we'll go to Barcelona. We reset you. You've had a great first experience doing super heroic stuff that we know that Dom and Letty do from the last movie. Writing it, the adding in Athens and changing that came in quite late as Fate to the Furious approached theatres. And so this is what I mean about designing things and then things changing over time. Therefore, that allowed us to then say, okay, when is this set then? It's not like Mr. Nobody when Cypher was last seen in Athens, and then they take 2 years off on holiday or go on a Caribbean cruise or something like that. So we knew it had to be a short period of time after, and I don't believe it's been officially said when Hobbs and Shaw takes place. But in our minds, this is happening during the events of Hobbs and Shaw.
That was kind of my guess too, because it's totally independent of it, sort of by design maybe, but who knows? Like not in terms of the game, but like the Hobbs and Shaw, like just separate thing, kind of all together.
Yeah. So if you imagined a completely horizontal timeline, just after Fate of the Furious, it then splits into Hobbs and Shaw goes one way, Crossroads goes the other. Then we rejoin with Fast 9 after that.
I don't want to squeeze you about Fast 9 information. I don't.
But
did you learn things from Fast 9 that made you change the story arc of the game as it was coming out closer to the movie release?
There's something that happens in Fast 9 which isn't
no, I'm teetering on. I don't
want to say
did this influence it. Yeah,
I don't want to give fans hope either. It is separate. It is a separate game, standalone. standalone experience. But I know from speaking to Tyrese said you should speak to Justin Lin about this because there's something in the movie that we're going down a similar path or whatever. Yeah, I don't want to say it foreshadows it because obviously Fast 9 is not out.
What I love about that is that like Tyrese by no means has a history of like saying things he shouldn't be saying, like announcing on Instagram or whatever that Dr. Dre sold beats for $1 billion. I just like that. I just like that he's just like, hey, here's the secret. It's like, hey, man, like
he's like Roman in real life. This is incredible.
Yeah, no, he just confirmed confirmed something that we knew already from the script. Yeah, I can't say anything because it's extremely top secret, but. There may be a future trailer that reveals it, and then we're all fine.
Okay.
No, I don't know. I'm just
okay.
I'm just supposing, but I'm presuming there's going to be another trailer, and whether that then reveals the thing I'm trying to dance around here, I don't know.
In terms of trailers, like I have successfully, I think for the most part, kind of convinced Joe to sort of avoid trailers because in my mind,
yeah,
like I know that I'm going to see F9. Like I don't need to have things spoiled.
Yes.
Like I want to go in there as pure as possible. But then you balance that with like, well, we have a podcast about these movies. Like I can't not watch the F9 trailer because, especially now with the delay, right? You know what I mean? So it's like a weird.
If someone ruined Han comes back for us, when us trying to not watch the trailer would have been heart-wrenching.
Here's a little trick that I do. I'll start watching the trailer. The very minute when I think, yeah, this looks good, I just close my eyes.
Yeah, me too.
And then you can just hear the rest of it. Because I think if you close your eyes in the Fast 9 trailer, you'll just hear someone go, call Clubhouse. You won't know who it is, but you'll at least go, oh, who was that? And you'll then start, thinking things in your own head. You'll still be really excited about it, but you won't have had that reveal, let's say.
Well, and that's the other thing that it's like, okay, so you have a 4-minute trailer, which is already like in the best possible way, like obscenely long. They reveal, or like we knew John Cena was involved, but they're like, oh, he's Dom's brother. We're like, oh my god, can you believe this reveal?
Yeah.
And then like 2 minutes after that, it's like, oh, Han? Like what? Like how? If that's what they're giving away in the trailer, like what crazy stuff are we going to see in the movie?
We have so many, obviously we have so many theories and things that we're like, our brains are just exploding about this. So we're just like thinking at how many directions they can go and things.
Especially since the timeline extended by a year, right? So like we thought we had like this finish line, the metaphorical finish line in sight. Like, okay, cool, we're going to have answers to this, this, and this. But now we have to wait another year. And it's like, oh no, like what is now what?
Yeah, it's really unfortunate about that. Totally understand why it's been done. It makes it even bigger now because it coincides with the 20th anniversary of the first movie. So
yeah.
I'm very thankful that we got Crossroads in between to give us a nice bit of story and canon to go along with. So we appreciate your effort for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
One thing that we were talking about, and I'm not sure if this is something that you ever discussed or considered, but a lot of what we get is just from rumors and people like, oh, there's a report out of the set or whatever. But there's, I think, a pretty widely passed around rumor that like the Brian character might return to the franchise at some point, whether it's going to be purely through CGI or his brothers or whatever going to be, whatever. And so we were talking about like we're of two minds with that, right? Like we love how we went out, and obviously you want to respect the memory of Paul Walker. We get where the family's coming from, that like they would love to see his legacy carry on. We're just like, I don't know, like if you do it right, like the same thing with anything, like if the franchise does it right, we're cool with it. But I feel like it's very hard to strike that balance. But we were talking about with the game, you could kind of bring Brian back in an easier way than with the movie because it's all computer generated, and you could sort of recycle lines or use lines or alternate takes or whatever from previous movies. Like, was that ever a consideration to bring Brian in some way, or is that kind of like a do not enter zone?
It's a do not enter zone, I would say. But that's the very quick answer. The longer answer is that just like the reason that Tej isn't in the game or Little Nobody isn't in the game, it's not because we didn't want them. It's because the story that we had to tell didn't require them. Why would we have Tej and Ramsey in there who already drive in the same car in the movies, and really Ramsey should get her own driving, her own vehicle, Why would we have 2 extra tech people in the game when we're introducing a third with Cam? So it just didn't make sense to, if you've got Tej by your side, he's already got, whatever next version of God's Eye is, or whatever cool thing, we wanted to have. So, it didn't make sense for those characters to be in the game because they were superfluous to the archetype that we were putting in there with Cam. And it's the same with Brian. Brian, if Brian were to return in the movies, he's a Hail Mary, right? He's when the chips are down, all is lost, and you think, oh my God, this is how they're all gonna die. The Toy Story 3 moment. That's when, holy shit, Brian's back. Yes, it was created in the best possible way with the family and the estate. All behind, and his daughter, all behind it, and in a meaningful way, and with the CG looking absolutely flawless, and it being respectful. Yeah, the heroic moment that makes you want to cry seeing it on screen. It has to be that. We can't just have them call Brian and go, "Oh, Brian, have you heard of this Elm Street guy?" And then just have him, "Oh yeah, back when the FBI, when I was working with them, like blah blah blah." It can't be that.
No,
and that moment just wasn't there. Could it have been when Dom turns up right at the end with the blast-proof car, and there's two cars there, and one of them's being driven by Brian? You think, oh my God, it's digital Paul Walker. That's not the right way to bring him round. The right way to bring him back. The right way to bring him back would be in the movies, and it would be done in a far more grandiose way, in surround sound, in a theatre, with all the fans not expecting it as well. It wasn't really even an area we looked at. We were very respectful of Paul, and that I hope that shows in the Camaro. The Camaro, because it is from Too Fast, and we did want to have this link to that movie in a tangible way, and it also really demonstrated something about Vienna's character, that she loves. She clings on to the past and wants to restore these old cars. All her cars are from the past. The old little Mazda, the Camaro, the Mustang. These are all cars that you presume that she's collected, restored back to their former glory. And it felt, therefore, and we spoke to Cody Walker about this as well. We spoke to him about bringing the car back without saying words like, resurrecting it and things like that would be really bad. We were just like, it's an iconic car. If you search Fast Furious cars, it's one of the first that comes up next to the Eclipse and the Supra and the Charger, obviously. And it was just a really tender way for us to allow Paul's legacy to carry on without actually having him physically on the screen. Yeah, we were just really, really careful about anything to do with Brian and Paul, and also it still feels too soon as well. So
agreed, 100%.
It wasn't right.
You passed our test, so that's an important thing. So now we can actually begin the interview. So that's good.
Right.
This was all just the build up. Actually, so speaking of the Yanko Camaro, we made a list while we were playing of the different references and Easter eggs and allusions that we found. I'd like to run through them kind of quickly and see. This is kind of entering into spoilers, and I want to see if there's any that we missed. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we missed them, because I'm sure that there are some that are like blinking, you're missing. I'm also trying to like
take notes. He's trying to play.
Yeah, because Joe's like, how'd you not? I'm like, because I'm trying not to crash into a thing. I'm trying to have a conversation with you. Like, I'm playing a game and talking about it and trying to process what's going on. So here's some things that we found in the game, and I'd like to see if there's any big ones or little ones, like some favorite ones that we might have missed.
Yep.
So obviously we have Dom mentioning Baby Brian, so that's just a reference. I think they mentioned early on that there's the cars going crazy in New York.
Yep.
The Yanko Camaro, of course. There's Racer's Edge, which I kind of lost my mind about. I'm like, oh my god, like it's international now.
We wanted to grow everything. We wanted everything to evolve slightly. So yeah, the Racer's Edge, it was like, well, we can't. Do we even put the line "overnight from Japan" like in there? Just we was like, that's a bit too much. So we're like, no, Racer's Edge, and we just assume that Harry has done extremely well with his one in LA, and has franchised the whole thing, and now it's international. So there's a Racer's Edge in New York, there's a Racer's Edge in Paris.
Police informant to international retail superstar. Like, I want the Harry story. I mean,
exactly.
Blown up in a way. Obviously, we mentioned Suki because they know the whole Miami scene, but Suki's really cool. They mentioned Race Wars, which is very cool.
Yep.
The green running lights on the cars in the game, we thought it was a nice little touch.
With Race Wars, Cam very specifically references the race Letty did when Dom took Letty to Race Wars to see if it would jog her memory.
Yeah.
So she races against an Audi in that, and it's that specific race that Cam's referencing.
And that's when what's her name is saying Ghost Girl. Oh God, what's her name? Fancy.
Iggy Azalea.
Iggy Azalea, yeah, where she's like, nice job, Ghost Girl, and she loses her mind. Okay, cool, very cool. There's like I think there's a truckload of VCRs referenced at some point.
Yeah.
Reference to Lompoc, which we love. We quote that a lot. 2 years in Lompoc, I ain't never going back.
We're introducing 2 new characters. Vienna has met Letty at some point in the past. That's something we'd like to explore further. What was that point that they met? And also, they know the legends just like we do. So they are the audience in that respect. So they're saying, yeah, like I've heard rumors, I've heard what they do with. Well, Haley says I heard what they do with the cars later on, but they say, yeah, like he went to Lompoc, and then like he turned up a race in London. Like they're saying the legends and the rumors that we know as fans, but through their lens of they don't know about the submarine, cars in Dubai. They don't know that stuff because that is like top secret spec ops.
Well, I mean, I guess they're not following Roman on Instagram though, because it looks like he's taking pictures and posting them, right? So,
but they do know the things that would have been in their wheelhouse of the street racing scene still. So they mention specifically the things that would have been heard in the car culture street racing grapevine.
Not exactly a Fast and Furious reference, but a classic car movie. Last lap we did a bunch of classic car movies, and at one point I think Dom is driving a Chevy Bel Air, which we know iconically from two-lane blacktops. I think it's kind of a it's just like a cool ass old car, right?
It's a Chevy 150 Gasser. That car is a car that we are saying that he brought back with him from honeymoon in Cuba. So it's
okay.
Yeah. So obviously, again, referencing Fast 8 with those cool cars, those beautiful old cars that they've modded and restored. It's a car that we assume him and Letty brought back with them from Cuba, exported it somehow. I don't know how, but and then obviously kitted it out for the desert terrain with the big fat wheels and suspension and stuff.
I love that.
Yes.
Caught a cigar reference, of course, Heart of Her Own.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tej and Hobbs are both mentioned. Mm-hmm. Then there's the mission where the bomb. I guess this is again a spoiler, sort of, but toward the end there's the mission where like Roman has a bomb strapped to him, and he's talking about how he never even learned Ramsey's last name, which I love.
Yep.
You reference Nightshade, which I think, or Nightshade 2.0 maybe. It's a return to Nightshade. And then there's the thing at the end. I think that maybe the last one that we caught, or last one we wrote down was, when Letty is escaping at the end through those tunnels, the very reminiscent of the end of 4.
Of course, yes. Every single set piece in the game, the inspiration from it came from the movies.
I love that.
The game is not just playing through those exact same missions, but now that you're doing it as a player, it was like, no, they live on screen, we love them, and also playing it again would just be, I've seen
boring.
this before, right?
Yeah.
So what we wanted to do was, okay, let's do a sequence where you're chasing after something and trying to get something off it. We did go with a train in the end because we were like, yeah, we wanted to do a train sequence. In this particular case, you're jumping onto it and you're trying to stop somebody. The truck heist, again, it was trying to take the truck over. It's in Barcelona, it's at night. Okay, that was a very more direct homage because we definitely wanted to have the green underlighting and make the fans feel happy, like we got you guys, hold my beer, right?
Yeah.
If you want to do a heist, the very first one you do is exactly like you remember and love from the very first movie. So we wanted to do that very, very one-to-one. And then everything else was what huge, massive objects and vehicles can we throw at you for you to do these things. So yeah, we wanted the hovercraft, we wanted the car transporter, and we were like, oh, is it a bit too close to Bad Boys 2 or Bad Boys with the cars being thrown off the transporter? We're like, is it too close to that? And we're like, no, it doesn't matter, it's just cool.
Yeah.
So we put that in there. Every set piece is directly representative of something that has happened in the movies, but with a brand new twist, brand new reason for doing it, brand new location, different characters doing it. Therefore, you get that kind of Force Awakens sense of familiarity, whilst it also being brand new, hopefully.
Before we get back to the Easter eggs, I want to know about the final set piece then, because that feels like not in the movies yet, and so this is spoilers there too, but like...
We always pray that they go to space, right? That's the clamoring that we all have, right? We're like, it's going to have to end in space at some point.
Yeah. And so the game ends with them shooting missiles out of rockets to keep it from going out to outer space, and then Dom is riding a rocket at the end as you have to basically decommission the rocket and then save him from dying on the rocket or whatever, right?
Right.
So you're saying that every sequence comes from the movie, but like no rockets yet. So I mean, is that kind of a nod to the everybody wants to go to space, or where does that come? Or is it one of those things where like we have to go bigger because that's just what the Fast and Furious does? So is that where that comes from?
The very early conversations were, holy crap, how do we get bigger than a submarine? All we were doing were looking for giant objects. So we would look to the aircraft carrier and we were like, okay, let's try and do something with an aircraft carrier. But at the speed an aircraft carrier can go, which is very slow, what are we going to do? Well, we can't, and it might feel like it's another kind of water-based object that is either chasing you or chasing after. So the aircraft carrier got pushed back a little bit, and then you just jump onto it during the port sequence. But there was potentially something around an idea there, an inkling of something to do with an aircraft carrier. And then we started looking at, well, okay, what's bigger than that? And we found some crazy stuff. So, that's why we found the big excavator thing with the crazy arms, with the saws on the end, like a kind of a Devastator transformer, right? For something which was going to give you the amount of drama, the amount of visual spectacle, also be a real threat. This ties back to Ormstrad and the plot. At the time, there were two things happening at the time. First, North Korea was announcing that they had missiles that could potentially strike the US, which was very scary. So when we were thinking of what is the bad guy plot, what is the thing that he's trying to do, just like Cypher was trying to get the nukes, we were like, okay, well, what if he doesn't want the nukes? What if he wants everyone else to use their nukes and he's just literally allowing you to... affording you the ability to use them without any kind of retaliation. It came at a kind of scary time in real life where we thought, what if the ability to detect nukes wasn't there and someone could just fire one off, and the first you would ever hear about it is when it actually hit. And that was therefore quite a scary thought, especially being able to launch it on the mainland. That's where that came from. It was like, oh my god, okay, our bad guy has got something against the US, just like the Dark Knight just wants to see the world burn, wants to give America a black eye, like he says, just wants to put them in their place. He's just an old school gangster. The technology that he has is essentially something almost like an EMP for the strategic defense grid, which would literally allow anyone to have a free pot shot at America. So that's where the kind of bad guy idea for his villainous plot came from. And then the other thing that was happening in real life as well was SpaceX was sending the Falcon rockets up and talking about Starship One. All that was taking off in the public eye as well. So we thought, a rocket is bigger than a submarine, isn't it?
It's as big as you can get.
And the joke is, of course, with the fans and the critics or whatever, is that one of these days these movies are going to go to space. So we thought, let's play into that then. Let's absolutely play into that.
Lean into it.
There's a huge rocket and it's going to be firing the thing up into space. And once it's up in space, you can't get to it. Like, it's gone. It's up there. If someone fires a nuke, that thing is up there, as a satellite, and you can't stop it. You can't shoot it down. Although I think you can do that now, right? But unless you're going to send Bruce Willis there to sort it out, that's it. It's gone. The feeling of a rocket going off and how the hell are the team going to stop that? And then the idea of, well, what if you knocked it off its axis and it was just scraping along the ground, like the submarine? I think we've got an ending there. I think we've got a villain, a deployment vehicle for his plot, and I think we've got an ending there which is bigger than the submarine. So that's where it all kind of came from. A lot of work, to get to that point of working out that and researching things, and then just like life imitating art, really, and the things that art imitating life. The things that were happening in the real world were the things that really influenced it.
And also, you in the end there, you also have something brand new car related as the fireproof car, right? It's just like, well, because there's when the game is just like, oh yeah, now just cross behind the jet fuel, and Joe is like, no, you just evaporate. Like, there's no way.
Jet fuel
like,
melts steel beams, right? That's that's the meme, right?
If like one person on planet Earth though can figure out, or if one crew on planet Earth can figure out how to survive this, it is the family, right? So like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, okay, I guess we're fireproof now, which is, I believe it.
It
right?
works. It works. Yeah.
We saw the rally charger that gets dropped out of the plane. We saw the ice charger, and we're like, okay, what do we do now? The charger is almost like it's like the Batmobile. It has many forms and many changes each time. For this, it was like, I think it's one stretch too far because the engine block is exposed and stuff. We were like, it's just one step too far to hide that and bullet and fireproof it and still have it recognizable, because we didn't really want it in black and stuff. So we went to Dodge and we spoke to Dodge about what can we use within the wheelhouse of Dodge, and they came back and said, well, we've got the Challenger, it's the Hellcat. And we were like, well,
yeah.
The Hellcat already has the name of insinuating that it's fireproof and stuff. So it kind of went from there, and we spoke with Dodge and presented them designs for what a kind of blast shield car would look like. They loved it. Obviously, Dodge are huge partners for the franchise as well.
Yeah.
And it kind of went from there. The bit that kind of, some things that end up on the cutting room floor in both games and movies. The one thing that we didn't actually explore further is Cam and Vienna chase after a truck and they find these heatproof panels, and Vienna says, oh, that could come in useful.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't even connect this, buddy. It makes sense now, but
well,
yeah, you're right.
It kind of doesn't, because we didn't really explore it maybe as much as we should have. But the idea was that we would have seen the Mustang without them on it, then we show the Mustang with them on it, and in the gameplay there was going to be a bit where Vienna was going to also go into the exhaust flames to do something. In the end, we put them on the buckles on the side to disconnect the engines from, because we just felt it just took too much away from Dom. Like, Dom's here to save the day. He should be the only one with the fireproof car, and therefore it felt like Vienna was almost stealing his stuff. Well, if she can do it, then why do we need Dom, right? So
exactly.
In the end, we actually edited ourselves there and actually took that out a little bit from the particular gameplay there, but it was hinted in there in that particular sequence. But really, it makes the most sense that they chase after the tank, which has got a flamethrower on the beginning. They realise that we may encounter fire sometime later in the game, and then Dom comes back. That's why he says, I'm going shopping. Comes back with the thing that they need at the right point. So hopefully it all makes sense.
It does.
Good.
We always talk about like the set pieces in the sense of cities. We were really excited that we got 2 new cities that we don't normally, actually more than 2, but 2 specifically new cities that we spend a lot of time in the game, in New Orleans and Morocco, in Barcelona too, right? And we were wondering how you came up with these cities. Why did you pick these? Was it just coloring or the feel of the game, or was there some kind of direction behind it? What was your mindset in picking these specific places?
As I kind of alluded to before, a lot of racing games out there only take place in one single location. Right. And you kind of explore that location to death. So which is great, free roam everywhere, and it's all about exploration and discovery, and an overhead map and fast traveling and picking up side-up quests and all that kind of stuff, and that's great, but that's not what the movies are. The movies are investigations and saving the world, going from one thing to the next, chasing out, playing cat and mouse with a bad guy, or pursuing them or escaping them, whatever it is. It's always an unrelenting drive forward through those movies. So we wanted to capture that the same in the games too. We knew that we weren't going to set it all in one particular location. We weren't just going to give you LA and playing cat and mouse trying to find this guy around the city. It just felt like the movies have grown beyond that. They're now these international. We're constantly going from location to location to location, so we wanted to do that the same in the game. We chose Athens, as I said, quite late because we wanted to link directly to something Mr. Nobody had said in the last movie.
Which is so smart and so cool. Yeah.
Yes, so smart.
We knew that we wanted the Hispanic vibe from the movies to be represented in some way. We did think about South America, Dominican Republic, Cuba, Havana, and we're like, well, we could explore Havana a little bit more, but it might feel like we're either like Dom and Letty of what they went back there after the honeymoon or something like that. Like, it didn't make sense for them. And also, we've seen it already. We wanted to go somewhere new. We thought about San Diego at one point. We just wanted somewhere that felt like it had the same vibe, that people knew, and you could have Spanish music on in the background and have that feeling of familiarity and that sense of home, but also give you something new. And that ended up being Barcelona. Also because it's got the beach, it's got the city, it's got the hills, and that visually therefore allowed it to have something quite different depending on where you were. It made sense that Vienna, being the kind of family role, giving her that head of the family role, and looking to the past and being someone who is very maternal, that they would have a farmhouse which is all rustic, and she's restoring from, I think she says a line of she got us a good deal, Sebastian got us a good deal on the house, so you presume it was like a beat up barn or something like that, and they've been eking out their meager livings trying to restore this barn. And I think also in one of the scenes you'll see inside the farmhouse there's kind of a back area, which is Cam's area, and that's very dark. It has computer screens in there, and that's again showing they live there together, but they are completely separate in the way that they think. Cam has lots of screens and fluorescent lighting and all that kind of stuff back there. So yeah, Barcelona was a lock-in quite early. We knew we wanted a kind of a larger area where you would get to free roam more. Games take a very long time to make. A lot of assets that need creating, and we wanted to have somewhere that was just a little easier for like the artist, the environment team to work on, whilst they were also then working on another city. So that's where Morocco came from. It's obviously geographically nearby Barcelona, so that made sense to the story that it would be somewhere that Kai could retreat to quite close by. It felt correct in terms of almost like Tatooine, a place. Not Morocco, the country, obviously, that's a huge generalization, but this specific part of Morocco, it made sense that is where he could keep his villainous cartel, Moroccan mob, Tadakul, out of sight, out of mind, without anyone being able to find him. And that very, again, kind of felt very familiar to, when they were trying to find Bin Laden out in the Afghani mountains and stuff. It felt that kind of hiding spot would be appropriate for this kind of character. New Orleans came around because, again, it's a beautiful city. It's got a lot of colour. It's got the French Quarter. It's got the skyscrapers. It's modern. It's also got the Bayou area. It's absolutely huge. It's got suburbia. It's got the marshlands and the swamps and stuff. It just felt like it had everything we needed geographically and visually to be able to tell the story of a villain who hides in plain sight in the industrial kind of areas, and also give us the geographical terrain that would allow us to play with the concept of terrain cars and speed cars, things like that in multiplayer as well. We wanted you to be able to go off-road a little bit. So Morocco with the desert allowed us that, and then also the kind of marshlands and swamp allow that in multiplayer too. So it just kind of made sense to have that in there. New Orleans is a cool place. Barcelona has got the familiarity of it. Athens touched on the story, and then Morocco was a great hiding spot for the villain.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, yeah.
I think the last big thing that I want to touch on, and you mentioned them, you referenced them, is the Tadakul and the sort of the role that they play in this game, in this story, and I'd like to hear a little bit more about that if we can, and like where the idea for that came from, and if you were going to consider something that already existed within the franchise, or if it, trying to balance existing things versus something brand new, and how that all kind of works in and blends in here.
It came again from the desire to have bad guys that really felt meaningful and weren't just like another Carter-Verone drug baron or something like that, or Braga, of like a modern gang. Well, not modern, but like a gang or a criminal empire that we've kind of seen a lot. We knew we wanted that with Ormstrad because he has been a gangster all his life, and his goons are, or his crew that he's created, are supposed to be reminiscent of the Furious Six, Owen Shaw's kind of crew, or now Cypher's crew. So we felt like we wanted something. We were always looking to the past. I think, oh God, I'm quoting lines from the game now. But we're always looking to the past and cars and heists and things like that. And we were thinking back when it was the days of horses and carriages and things, like they were the equivalent of cars on the road, and heists back in the day were, highwaymen who would stop you and rob your carriage and things like that. And it just felt like a criminal empire that kind of came from those days of, these highway robbery scenarios, and it kind of kept that heritage there and tradition, and knowing that we wanted our bad guy to be unrelated to Ormstrad in terms of nationality, knowing eventually that he would be Moroccan. It kind of all started to make sense that they were a criminal organization that ran on tradition, and therefore they'd been around for a long time, had kept their ways by keeping secretive. They had their own legends of how they operated and stuff. That felt kind of almost like a Japanese samurai, keeping their tradition stuff. Samurai are the good guys, obviously. Yeah, it felt like the Tentacle would be kind of the opposite of that. Like, they were the bad guys that had been around for a long time, had their traditions, and it kind of went from there. And that would then be in direct opposite to Ormstrad and his modern day technologically based bad guys.
What I appreciate about that, and that description specifically, is that it at once feels like it belongs in this kind of franchise, but also
100%.
As the franchise becomes more one thing that we kind of not complain about, but we don't love seeing, is that everything just becomes more hacking. Like, a lot of Charlize in 8 is just kind of typing on computers, I'm going to show them, and it feels refreshing to have something that feels like it belongs here, but also feels like it's not just I think we have to all just accept that the world is getting more technical and all that, and that's just how things are going, and that makes sense. But it's also nice to have something that's not that just feels different, feels like it belongs, but also feels different.
Yeah, old versus new is one of the big things that guided the entire story and the characters. The old is Kai, the new is Ormstrad. The old looking into the past is Vienna, looking to the future is Cam. So it trickles all the way through. And that's equally true when we see the cars that Dom's been working on. So when he says they're two vehicles made from the same parent chassis. So it's a Chevy chassis.
Yes.
We talked to Dennis McCarthy, the car coordinator on the movie, on this. And that came from Fast 4 when the tanker is running towards them, and he gets a lot of mail about the car that was used, the Doms sat in there. And he was talking to us about the Chevy chassis, it can be used in a variety of different ways, and you can build many cars off it and things like that. So the idea was that, we take a parent and then we create family out of that parent. So we're trying to put the idea of family into the cars as well. And of course, the ones that Dom makes, there's a shiny solar-powered technological one for Cam, and there's a moonshine racer, a rat rod, for Vienna. And again, we went with the kind of moonshine racer reference because that's where street racing kind of came from. People who were trying to get their liquor across state lines as fast as they could, So again, just trying to reference as much from car culture and the past and what we did with cars in the past as well. Trying to do new things with them and then link them into the story in just a meaningful way, and direct opposite to the new stuff, like you said.
I love that. That's super cool. I guess my last question, just going back to the Easter eggs for a second, is there anything when we were, because I got distracted. I distracted myself by just talking about the rocket, right? But is there anything that we missed?
Man, yeah.
Anything in particular that you're I buried something really, or we buried something really deep in here, or whatever
that you heard that we missed so far?
There's absolutely tons. So as they're in the first mission, in their opening Barcelona mission, they're talking about how they're hungry, and the reason for that conversation is that we're establishing that they're broke, and they say, "Oh, how are we going to that restaurant?" And I think Vienna says, "Oh, with the seared tuna," and the tuna obviously references,
100%,
that one.
Yeah.
From there,
Also, just the fact that they're hungry is the end of 2 as well.
We
right?
hungry.
Pockets ain't empty, right? So,
Pockets ain't empty, cuz.
There is a line that Roman says, which is foreshadowing something in Fast 9. So I can't say what that is. Yeah,
Gotta play the game again, I guess. All right, okay.
I'm trying to think of other stuff.
Is it Thailand?
I cannot confirm or deny.
I always wanted to go to Thailand. That's when we were playing the game, we were actually like, is that a hint that okay?
Also, I spent like an hour yesterday trying to get that one. That was like the one single player achievement I could not get, which is like get there with 2 minutes left on the clock. Like I just can't.
So here's a tip for that. You can drive through the cornfield on either side of the road.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a
Much
bit more
easier.
open world that you may expect in that section there. When Vienna and Cam come back from hacking the data at the Moroccan data center, they plug the hard drive into the computer and it comes up with a list of Tactical owned businesses or Tactical partners or people on the payroll or whatever it is. One of those is Etion.
Oh,
interesting.
Okay, very cool.
I think that's about it. There's obviously like the James Bond references that Roman does. See you later, 00 nothings and things like that. You know, that's it's a lot of ad libbing and things like that. You know, that came with those kind of missions. Yeah, I think that's about it. There are more. There's numbers that we use. I think the police cars have the number 1327.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
of course.
the address.
Yeah,
There you go. You get it. Yeah, I don't need to explain things to you guys. You know all this stuff. So, yeah.
Also, by the way, consider this your official invitation that on January 3rd, 2027, we're going to do anything we can to rent out that house in California and just throw like the big party. So this is officially your invitation.
Barbecue,
in
obviously.
6.5 years. Come join us on 1327.
Absolutely, yes. It is. I've been to that house before, and it's it's like Mecca.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about how like we would love to have the house across the street from that house because then you could like wake up and look out every day and be like, oh, there's the Toretto's just across the street.
Yeah, exactly. I pulled up and took photos and stuff, and even during my short times parking the car, walking up, taking a photo, looking around, you can walk down as well. Like at the bottom of that road is where Toretto's cafe is, so you can literally just walk from one to the other. In the short time that I was there, at least 2 other heavily modified Japanese import cars pulled up and did similar things. So yeah, I can't imagine how many they get per day.
The only thing that I've ever done like that is I went to the white residence from Breaking Bad, where you could just like there's the place in Albuquerque where you can go and
don't throw pizzas on the roof.
Don't throw pizzas because they put up the fence now or whatever. But like this is back in. I guess when my sister was moving back from California, so it must have been 2013. It's like right around the time the show ended. We were there, the same thing. Like we were there for like 5 minutes, and there were like 3 or 4 cars, and then whoever lives in that house came out and just like angrily standing there. It's like, I mean, like I get it, but like you live in the white, white residence,
you bought
right?
the house.
So like,
come on, yeah.
What do you expect?
You know that we do some little nods, like we're very aware of what the game is. You know,
Sure.
So even in the stakeout mission when you start there, that Cam says you're gonna sit outside somebody's warehouse in a boring ass stakeout. Who wants to do that? And that is a very clear reference to the fact that how dare we, in a game where you're supposed to be going fast and furious, how dare we put you in a car and not actually allow you to move? Like that was because you've just done something really exciting and you're about to do something really exciting. So pacing wise, it's like, no, have a breather. Have that frustration of one, we're trying to make you feel like Cam in that point of like, I want to move, I want to drive, and you have that feeling, and when Cam like, oh, screw this, I'm going, you're like, oh, finally, and you do feel like I agree with them, and off you go.
I think it's that mission too, where like they open the garage doors and there's like these 2 really badass like super modified cars, and you're like, oh my god, I'm gonna get to drive one of these, and like no, you're in that, and like it's like, oh god damn, like come on, like what are you doing to us?
Yeah,
there we go. There's another Easter egg. Yeah, Vienna says, the hot rod's got my name all over it, and they're like, no, you're going to be driving that. And they look at the delivery van, and the Star Wars reference there is when Rey says, that is a piece of garbage, when she looks at the Millennium Falcon originally.
Yeah.
So we have Cam go, what? It's garbage. It's the same thing there.
That's very cool. I like that a lot. Actually, one other thing in terms of the cars and like just the driving of it is that like I think there was an interesting balance between like you think about a Fast and Furious game and you think about like there's a a lot of races, but I think there's really, from what I remember, there's like maybe two traditional street races. There's the one where someone does not make it, which I will not spoil. Oh, we spoiled everything else, where Sebastian essentially gets Honned. And then there's like the supercar where you're driving the Katana, and like that's, but like other, like we're just like, oh, the movies really aren't about those kind of races anymore either. So like your brain's like, oh, I'm expecting to drive a lot of those, but I feel like what you're trying to do narratively with the story, it wouldn't feel genuine almost.
Yeah, exactly. The movies have, evolved since then. As we were talking about ranking the movies, the movies have evolved beyond that, and there's a huge audience who, still love the street racing and stuff like that. And, and we do as well, but equally they have transformed into something else. So we knew we definitely wanted to pay respect to that, to the history, and that's why we had that, illegal party scene, spray paint on the floor kind of race. That is the way that the characters try to get out of their situation, because that's all they know at that point, which is, completely resets you back to thinking in terms of Fast 1 and Fast 2. If you were a street race and you wanted some money, that is, you'd go to what you know, right? That you'd get lured back into the seat, and you'd try and win the race for the pink slips and the cash, and try and win it that way. That's all they have. So that's why we definitely wanted to, it felt right to have that kind of race in the game as a homage, but also because that is the way that the characters know how to deal with things. As the movies have progressed on, they've got more elaborate, either out in the sticks in race wars or in the city racing through London, and it felt therefore that we wanted to bring to the table something a bit more legitimate, and we really thought about whether it should be race wars in the city or not. Every time we've seen race wars, it's it feels like it's Burning Man in a desert. Race wars.
Exactly. Yeah.
And therefore, it was previously at Willow Springs. Actually, in the early movie, we went to actually visit Willow Springs as well. It felt like, should we do race wars in the city? In which case, that again brings with it a lot of kind of baggage of, well, is Hector running that or not? Is Hector the reason that that Race Wars is now in New Orleans? And if he is, when Dom asks him for cars, he would have to say yes. He'd be like, sure thing, dude. Like, I got your back, And we knew gameplay wise we needed you to win them. So that therefore made sense of like, okay, let's not have Race Wars. Let's have a different thing called Fuel Fiesta. And it's ran by Mahalia, again, trying to put more people of colour in positions of power as we can. And it also allowed us narratively a character who can say no to Dom. You obviously get a sense of history there, like, the way they hug each other. But also you realise that she's the head of her family, and she's looking out for her family. I can't let you take these cars, Dom. I can't have any of what you do traced back to me and what we've built here. That's an important line there to say, look, I'm looking after my family just like you're looking after yours. Mm-hmm. And therefore that made sense that we could only really do that with a brand new character. That allowed us to then kind of do what we wanted with that street race without having to have it kind of stuck within the branding of Race Wars and stuff, and allowed us to have a more modern race, with sponsors, with a big soundstage and music and all that stuff, and the kind of revelry that you get from Race Wars, but without kind of being restricted by the narrative desires that I think the fans would have liked if Hector had turned up or something, or even Sean. We did think of having Sean as potentially the owner of Fuel Fiesta, but again, that didn't make sense.
Well, I love the way it turned out, and I this story is just like, it's so cool. Like, I think it kind of exceeded what we were not hoping for, but like thought it might be. It just definitely feels
cool.
It feels important, I think, is the bottom line. Like, it feels like it's narratively, like, there are stakes here that even if it isn't directly referenced or everything, like, we know these, like, we kind of have information of like where Dom and Letty and Roman have been. Mm-hmm. And I think that alone, like, it's worth playing and worth watching a walkthrough on YouTube or what, you know what I mean? Just like, you need to experience this somehow, because I feel like this is important to, especially what we're doing here, and like over analyzing every little bit. Like, it scratched that itch that, especially that we've been missing, from, we should have had F9 by now. Mm-hmm. But like, this is, this made this Fast and Furious year like worth it. So thank you.
Thanks very much. I mean, I think there's been some the people online who have talked about the game's length and stuff like that, but for us, it's telling a story which is, it's 2 movies worth.
Yeah.
We want everyone to get through it. There is a statistic out there which is, I've been in the games industry for 20 years now. There's a statistic out there which has been exactly the same throughout that entire 20 years, which is only a third of the people who buy your game finish your game, which as developers, is
disappointing.
Is very disappointing. Right? The amount of people that work on these products and all the artists I know who put all their life and soul into the environments and the designers and the audio and the physics and like everybody who's involved in making a game, to then find out that 2/3 of the people who bought your game didn't even see the ending or halfway through the story or whatever, and it felt very a different prospect here. We want everyone to get through it. We want everyone to play the story, see the ending, know what the next step is in the Fast franchise after 8, know where the characters kind of end up, know that there's potentially 2 new characters that are joining the franchise here, right? And get that feeling, get to know the characters of Vienna and Cam, hopefully, fall in love with them, as I said, and want to see more. That's not possible if you're only telling a third of the story, and people just see them at the beginning as like these bickering characters that they don't really want to know how they end up. I'd hope everyone who buys the game finishes it, and we get 100% of people playing our game and finishing it.
Like I have, and this is not exactly this conversation, but I have like The Last of Us Part 2, which I know I'm going to love, or like Red Dead 2, which I know I'm going to love, but like do I have 25 or 100 hours to like put into it? Like I kind of love like the 3, 4, 5, 6 hour game, because it's like you can beat it in a weekend. Like you don't have to, like it's not the entire, it's just there's an upside to it, and I feel like people kind of are missing the point. I don't know, but
absolutely, yeah,
I have no issues with it, so I appreciate that.
So, yeah.
I do want my last thought about the game, then I want to do one quick game with you. I was not ready, because I've been playing video games for 25, 27, whatever, since I was 5, right? Like 27 years, right? I've died so many times in so many video games, right? Like you die all the time, but I was not ready genuinely for like when you fail a mission, be like, Letty has died, like just that line, the restart screen. I was just like, and this is not me blowing smoke. This is a genuine reaction. Where it's just like I was not ready for like the feeling I had when it's like Letty, like I killed Letty. And I was like, oh my god, like what? And I don't know, like it's just a very, very simple like Letty has died, restart or quit, and just like oh my god, like what did I do?
Well, that's great to hear that. I mean, the way that the game handles, the way that the difficulty is balanced, all that kind of stuff is with the fans in mind. We're very obviously conscious that the movies do insanely well at the box office. It's the 7th or even higher biggest franchise in the world, with hundreds of millions of people around the world. Do they play games though? We don't know. And what we wanted to make sure is we didn't make a game that only appealed to people who already buy racing games, or people who are already like playing Call of Duty or something like that. We wanted to make sure we made the game balanced and everything was perfectly put in a line to make sure that if you're a fan of the franchise, you can pick it up, you can play it with your son or daughter or your dad or your mum, or as a group family experience, and you can pass the control around and you can all get through the levels and the missions and stuff, have fun, get to see Dom and Letty back on your TV screens as an appetizer for Fast 9, and have a great experience where you actually sit down and do get through the entire thing. I'm slightly surprised that you killed Letty so many times. I thought we'd got the balancing. I thought we'd got the difficulty right that shouldn't happen. But
actually, I was saying to Joe that a lot of the game, it feels like the game wants you to win. Like I think that's again like kind of balancing.
You're saying, yeah.
It's not just like a series of quick time events, right? Where you're watching a story like, oh, hit A here or hit RB to slam to the thing, right? Like it's not that, but it feels like you're not making a game to make a difficult racing game. You're making a game that tells a story that like you're a part of. And I didn't die a ton, but again, it was me trying to like think about things for the podcast, even before we knew we would talk to you. But like knowing that to cover this, and then also talking to Joe on Discord while I'm playing, and like I'm doing a lot of these different things. So I'm better at video games than I'm letting on. But I died a couple times. I killed Letty a couple times. So Michelle, I am so sorry.
We just wanted to remove as many frustrations as possible.
Yeah,
you know,
it feels.
and just have
it feels
doing
that way.
fun things, going whoop and cheering and going, oh cool, and oh, I got that reference, and all that kind of, we just want those moments as many as possible without you having to go, oh, I died, restart and hear them all over again or do it all over again. So yeah, it's very specifically designed like that.
You accomplished that for sure, buddy.
Cool.
Yeah. So Andy, the final thing we have to do is I want to find out which Fast and Furious character you are. Are you ready for this?
Okay, then go.
So we found a personality quiz online, and we gave it to a bunch of guests, and we took it ourselves, and we're like, this is fine, but we could do better, right? And so we came up with our own quiz. We have 25, I think, different answers. What's very exciting is that our listener Wes just actually created a web, like a desktop-based thing that I'm going to be using for the first time.
Ooh, interesting.
So
Nice.
very exciting. So here we are. There's 7 questions.
Okay.
No wrong answers. This is just who you are as a person, what you prefer. Are you ready? Question number 1, how fast are you? NASCAR, roller coaster, Lamborghini Murcielago, Toyota Prius, Vespa, or Razor scooter?
Murcielago.
Okay.
The Lamborghini are one of my favourite cars. They just look like stealth bombers, don't they? They're just like they
100%.
They look like you've taken a block of black shiny marble or onyx, and you've taken a katana and you've literally just like slashed a bunch of times, and you're left with just that angular, awesome, low-riding car. So yeah, it has to be the Murcielago, I think.
Okay, very cool, very cool. Now, question number 2, you know it's coming. How furious are you? The Hulk, Kylo Ren, Christian Bale on that one movie set that one time, Mel Gibson, Charlie Brown, or Jack McBrayer?
Charlie Brown from Snoopy? Or
yes,
else?
yeah, not very furious, just a little... just like, after Lucy pulls the football away, he gets a little angry, but mostly he's just he's not very furious.
I'll go with Kylo Ren here. I think the way he kind of stomps around when he just has a little bit of a childlike fit and just ignites his saber and just like destroys that room or whatever it is. I think that's very much me sometimes. So yeah, let's go with that.
Wonderful. Okay. Now, Andy, we're having a barbecue. How are you helping? Are you manning the grill? Are you saying grace? Are you kicking back with a beer? Are you babysitting? Are you being the entertainment? Or are you sneaking a snack?
I'm a grill guy.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a grill guy, I think. If I wasn't, I would be constantly around it, making sure that they're turning the steak over or whatever all the time and keeping it nice and tender. So I think so, yeah. If I'm not allowed to do that, I'll entertain. I'll put the music, I'll put the tunes on.
All right, now, Andy, you've got time to kill. What are you doing? Are you grabbing a bite, working on your car, hanging with friends, drinking a beer, working out, or working on your computer?
What's this time to kill?
Yeah, you got a free weekend. I mean, you seem like a man of a million hobbies. I have no idea where this is going to go.
So it wouldn't be working on the computer. I would play a game. So I've just been, whatever it may be, looking forward to Microsoft Flight Simulator, for example, so I can just go and relax. But then equally going and playing the latest UFC game that's just come out. So that I'm a gamer at heart, so it's always going to be that.
Joe, I think the points we allotted in that included kind of gaming, or not really, or is it more work, doing work?
I don't remember. I think it was it was being on your computer more so than working on your computer.
But I think I'm going to go with hanging with friends, because our company has a distributed development model, which means that we all work from home anyway.
Okay.
So when the pandemic took over, we were very lucky that our natural work environment was already conducive to working from home and stuff. When lockdown happened and you weren't even allowed, out to see your friends and stuff, and we were all jumping on like house party or Zoom calls or whatever.
Right.
That's the bit that made me realise, oh, damn, it's the lack of being able to see your friends, which is actually the thing that keeps me sane most of the time. So I'm actually going to go with hanging with friends. You can go on your computer anytime you want, unless there's like a global EMP that gets turned on or whatever. We all end up in The Walking Dead.
All right. Are you married?
Yes.
Now this is okay. So that's not the actual question for this.
Oh.
Okay, I just want to get that as a baseline. So now, please describe your wedding for us. I'm never getting married, which I hope is not your answer. It's just me and my partner. It's us and our families. It's a backyard country affair. Everyone I know is there. I don't remember.
Haha, everyone I know was there. Yeah, got married in a... Such an English thing to say. Got married in a palace. But, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we have those over here. Got married in a palace, and we were in the centre of the room with everyone around us, as opposed to two people going up at the front and everyone being behind. So everyone got like a really good view. No one was like too far away. The concept was, you just invite as many people as you can.
Yeah, I love it.
Because otherwise, your auntie, your aunt and uncle are just going to be unhappy if you didn't invite so and so, and someone's going to get the hump if you don't invite them, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, free bar, as many people as possible, one giant party.
I love it. That sounds great. I also do want to say, as a shout out to Wes, that seeing the character out, like who it is, update in real time is a beautiful thing. Okay, you just won the lottery. What are you buying? My own garage, a private plane. I'm gambling it all away. My childhood home, a fleet of cars, or a new life.
A new life, wow. A new life sounds like you're going in a witness protection program and you're going to destroy your old life, though. But for me, a new life would be using the money to do the things that we all cannot just go and do on a whim.
Yeah.
So for me, it would be I don't go on a holiday enough. And if there was enough money in the world, then you just go, I'm going on holiday next week. That kind of thing.
Sure.
Or I'm going to do that cruise. Or I'm going to go and live in France and do my work from France instead. Or whatever it may be. So if this doesn't skew the personality test enough and make it seem like I want to escape my current life, I would say that one. I don't know whether it is, though.
I think it works well. Okay. And then the final question, this is going to decide it all. What is your drink of choice? Belgian ale, Corona, something fruity, water, whatever's cheapest, or just Joe's going to the bar. Just get me whatever you're having.
Whatever you're having. I'm really not fussed on choices of drinks. If my friends are drinking beers, I'll drink beers. If we're out at a bar, we'll be having whiskey and cokes. Whatever it is. And also I like trying new things. So yeah, otherwise you just get caught in a rut, don't you? If somebody says, "Oh, there's this weird new strawberry pale ale from the Netherlands" or something, you'd be like, "Okay, let's try that." It might be horrible, in which case you don't have it again, but at least you've tried it. So,
all right, Joe, do you have any guesses on who he is?
No, I mean he went so many different directions, I can't pin it down.
So this is something we've had before, but we've only had him once, and given his popularity, given the fact that he's like 5% chance, you would think we'd have more, but Andy, you're Brian O'Connor.
Oh, okay. Right.
Your confidence might seem misplaced at first glance, but you have the skills to back it up.
Okay.
And if you ever find yourself in a situation you can't drive, punch, or shoot your way out of, your smile and quiet charm will usually do the trick. When it comes time to make a hard choice, you'll always follow your heart and choose the path that protects your family, and you drive like the wind blows.
There we go. Wow, I'm going to have that on my gravestone.
Does that describe you? Do you think that's pretty fair?
I think that's quite nice, actually. I'm certainly growing the Brian from Too Fast, Too Furious hair right now, with, not being able to go to the barbers. So yeah, that feels cool.
Well, Andy, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us.
We can't thank you enough, brother.
Of course,
give us all the inside scoop on the game, for making the game in general, and for teasing some F9 things that we can't talk about, we can't ask about.
Yeah, I mean, look, until that movie comes out, even I'm not sure, right?
Exactly, yeah.
The fact that the extra time, I don't know, so I genuinely don't know here, but I would have thought that would mean more time in the editing room or something.
Yeah.
So who knows? It may be the longest movie that ever comes out. Yeah, we don't know, but from what I know of it, it's going to be absolutely awesome. So
we can't wait.
I hope we've just given you
brother.
Appetizer for it at least.
Yes, you did.
This was wonderful.
You wet our whistle for sure, man.
Good. Well, look, it's been a pleasure. Absolutely. It's been great to talk about all the things with people that have noticed them or appreciated them and stuff. So yes, it's great.
So now, Joe, next week, our next 2 episodes, we are entering another themed week. We are doing Reef Week here. We have 2 memory loss movies themed around the reef. We are starting with Blue Crush, starring Michelle Rodriguez,
nice.
And then we are heading over to Finding Nemo, not a Michelle Rodriguez movie, but another movie about the reef and another movie about memory loss. So next week, Blue Crush and Finding Nemo. But for all things Too Fast, Too Forever. You can go to cageclub.me, facebook.com/toofast2forever, or at toofast2forever on Twitter and Instagram. Email us, family@cageclub.me. Check out our Patreon page at toofast2forever.com. Go check out Fast and Furious Crossroads.
Yeah,
out available now. And come back next week for Reef Week with Blue Crush and Finding Nemo. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too.
And that was Andy Tudor, and we'll see you next time right here on Too Fast, Too Forever.